So beautiful that he had never imagined the little carrot of the past would grow into such an enchanting woman. Then why does Ming Lucas treat me like this? Daisy Taylor didn't understand and asked through her sniffles. He's not worthy. Ethan Leo's voice was cold as steel, and he unconsciously tightened his grip on her shoulders. From the beginning, even when he didn't want to, he had indulged all of Daisy Taylor's wishes, even personally delivering her into another man's arms. But this time, he would never forgive Ming Lucas. Do you have wine? Yes. There's plenty in my study. If that's not enough, I'll take you to the Leo family's wine cellar. Do you have food? Yes. Whatever you want to eat, it's yours. I want fried meat, hoo-hoo. She tilted her head back and cried mournfully. Her small, sorrowful figure and her words were such a stark contrast that it was almost laughable. At this moment, whatever she asked for, Ethan Leo would grant her. All right, let's go right now. Ouch! Daisy Taylor sobbed as she stood up, accidentally twisting her ankle. She looked at Ethan Leo, feeling even more aggrieved. Seeing this, Ethan Leo didn't say a word, directly scooping her up in his arms and striding outside. Mr. Leo, who was admiring the view in the back garden, noticed the scene. His eyes lit up as he stepped aside, stroking his chin while watching their figures disappear, a sly smile spreading across his face. That rascal! He kept saying he didn't like Daisy, and here he is, holding her before even turning 18. TSK. 10 years of fostering feelings weren't in vain. It seems this matter is as good as settled. Ha! That evening, Daisy Taylor sat eating fried meat, sipping red wine, and tearfully complaining about Ming Lucas. Beside her, Ethan Leo kept comforting her. He couldn't help it, seeing her upset made him feel uneasy too. Tell me. Ming Lucas is supposedly the eldest son of the Lucas family, not poor or lacking in status, so why would he cheat me out of my money? He knows full well my position in the Leo family. If I were the true heiress of the Leo family, fine, but I'm just a daughter-in-law raised by the family. Why would he still cheat me out of the money I worked so hard to earn? As she spoke, tears streamed down her face again. If it weren't for the wine, Daisy Taylor would never have revealed such an embarrassing story. Ethan Leo lowered his head, his mind racing with countless thoughts. Ming Lucas is a notorious playboy. The Lucas family froze his accounts long ago. It's no surprise he tried to cheat you. The only thing I regret is letting him come to the Leo family in the first place, allowing you to meet him. This was Ethan Leo's deepest regret. No matter how much he calculated before, he never imagined Ming Lucas would dare to target his person. Daisy Taylor lifted her head to the sky, laughing bitterly. Maybe I'm just too foolish. Foolish? Ethan Leo smirked. If she were foolish, she wouldn't have been able to toy with him all these years, spinning him around like a top. Suddenly, Daisy turned to look at him, her large tear-streaked eyes blinking. Will you watch the stars with me for a while? Chapter 7, Do you want to kiss me? What? The stars? But the stars are hidden behind the clouds now, aren't they? Ethan Leo looked at her. Her tear-filled eyes, tinged with sorrow, were completely glazed with intoxication. She was definitely drunk, otherwise, why would she call him brother? From childhood until now, such intimate addressing could be counted on one hand. Ethan Leo saw her staggering as she tried to stand up, so he got up and supported her by the arm, accompanying her as they gazed at the night sky. Daisy Taylor, intoxicated, stared at the view for a while before letting out a loud belch, completely unladylike. She turned, nearly falling, but Ethan Leo caught her, pulling her into his arms. Huh? Why am I so sleepy? Her tiny hands clutched at his shirt, her small face flushed from the alcohol. She pouted, rubbing against him in search of comfort, leaving Ethan Leo utterly flustered. He gently held her small hands and pushed her away slightly, his handsome face showing a hint of unease. You're drunk." "No, I'm not." Daisy Taylor shook off his hands, tilted her head to look at him, and blinked her large, glistening eyes. "I'm just feeling sleepy and a bit dizzy. How about you carry me to bed?" Her suggestion reminded him of something he used to do when they were younger, but hearing it now felt oddly ambiguous. Ethan Leo looked at her, her clear eyes showing nothing but the haze of alcohol. Yet, deep inside, he felt a strange sense of loss, an inexplicable discomfort. Perhaps he could no longer see her as just a child. "If you drink too much and fall asleep, you'll have a headache tomorrow. Come on, let me help you over there to get some fresh air." With that, he helped her to a pavilion and sat her down. "In 2 days, it'll be your birthday. How do you want to celebrate it?" Ethan Leo asked, gazing at the moon while letting Daisy Taylor lean on his shoulder. "Do you want to kiss me?" Daisy Taylor suddenly sat up straight, her eyes serious as she stared at him. Ethan Leo froze, his face turning stiff. Clearly, he hadn't expected her to ask such a question and was momentarily at a loss for words. "I'm almost 18, just one sentence, but full of hidden meaning." Although unspoken, both of them understood. Daisy Taylor looked at Ethan Leo, who was frozen in place, the corner of her lips curving into a mischievous, captivating smile. She deliberately leaned closer, her lips either accidentally or intentionally brushing against his cheek, "Just like me. If you want to kiss me, then give me a valuable birthday gift." Ethan Leo took a deep breath, trying to maintain some distance, but the intoxicating allure kept provoking him. Since the age of 18, he had been tormented by Daisy Taylor. For the next 10 years, his world revolved around her, with no interaction with any other woman. Now, with such ambiguity between them, how could he not be moved? Swallowing dryly, he awkwardly turned his face away. "Little girl, wait until you truly grow up before you say such things." Daisy Taylor chuckled softly at his words, stood up, and looked at him. "Everything should be done early. I'll be waiting for your gift. I'm going to bed now." With that, she turned and walked inside. Ethan Leo turned his head, stood up, and watched Daisy Taylor's figure gradually disappear, his eyes full of hidden emotions. Everything should be done early. She had already experienced heartbreak with another man once, even before growing up. If he waited until she truly matured, would he have to stand by and watch her be taken by someone else? No. Absolutely not. With this thought, he strode to his study and began planning for Daisy Taylor. 2 days later, on Daisy Taylor's birthday, Mr. Leo was all smiles, hosting a grand celebration for her. His gaze toward her and Ethan Leo carried even more ambiguity. Sure enough, the party had barely begun when the elder publicly announced Daisy Taylor and Ethan Leo's engagement for the following month, causing a stir among the guests. Everyone knew that Lucy Lucas was the one widely acknowledged as the future daughter-in-law of the Leo family. Lucy Lucas frequently visited the Leo family, and her obsessive infatuation with Ethan Leo was no secret. Mr. Leo's announcement was nothing short of publicly humiliating the Lucas family, turning them into a laughingstock. The Lucas family was displeased and openly opposed the decision. Lucy Lucas couldn't sit still any longer. She stood up, smiled, and approached Mr. Leo. "Grandfather, Daisy is still young. Isn't this decision a bit too hasty?" Chapter 8, Reopening Old Wounds. "Tuette little girl, it's not like I'm announcing your engagement to my grandson. Why are you in such a hurry?" Mr. Leo said with slight displeasure, his face stern. Lucy Lucas tightened her grip on the champagne glass, her heart filled with unwillingness. Clearly not ready to let it go, she deliberately looked at Daisy Taylor and raised her voice. "Daisy Taylor, have you forgotten my brother so quickly?" Daisy Taylor froze. The feeling of having her old wounds reopened was unbearable. Her gaze towards Lucy turned hateful. "Who I forget or remember is none of your business." "Humph. Just a few days ago, you ran away with my brother, left him stranded overseas, and now you're calmly hosting a birthday party. My poor brother." Lucy Lucas feigned sorrow for her brother, but in truth, her words were meant to let everyone hear. The grand hall quickly erupted in whispers and murmurs, with all eyes turning towards today's main character, Daisy Taylor. At this moment, the large doors swung open, and Ming Lucas, who had been absent for a long time, stepped in. He stopped in front of Daisy Taylor, looking at her with deep, emotional eyes. "Daisy, I've returned. The most unsettling thing for a person is to see someone they least want to see on their happiest day." Daisy Taylor took a step back, her expression shifting from surprise to fear, and finally to intense hatred, as if accusing him, "You abandoned me, so why have you come back?" Ethan Leo, standing behind her, instinctively moved closer. His cold gaze locked onto Ming Lucas, as though silently declaring himself her protector. "Daisy, we agreed to leave together and live our own life. How could you leave without waiting for me?" Ming Lucas stepped forward, his eyes filled with anguish as he looked at Daisy Taylor, resembling a heartbroken lover who had been abandoned and deceived. His expression deeply provoked Daisy Taylor. She hadn't expected the man who claimed to love her and wanted to take her away would now shamelessly return to accuse her. Ethan Leo noticed Daisy Taylor's unease. His icy eyes fixed on Ming Lucas, who continued his act. Slowly, Ethan's hand slid inside his suit, gripping his gun tightly. Just one more second, and he would definitely pull the trigger and kill him. Slap. Everyone was waiting to watch the drama unfold, but Daisy Taylor didn't give them the chance. The ruthless sound of the slap echoed through the grand hall for a long time before fading away. "Daisy," Ming Lucas touched his slapped cheek, looking at her in disbelief. Deep in his eyes, a trace of resentment surfaced, but due to the presence of others, he refrained from reacting immediately. "Get out." Daisy Taylor suddenly pointed to the door and shouted. Ming Lucas instinctively glanced at Lucy Lucas beside him. Both siblings froze in place, stunned. The atmosphere remained tense for a long while. "You ungrateful child, get out now." Father Lucas bellowed, then turned to Mr. Leo and Lady Leo with a smile. "I apologize for this unruly child causing embarrassment to everyone." Mr. Leo didn't respond but instead addressed the crowd. "The engagement between my grandson and granddaughter has been decided. If anyone has objections, come discuss them with me in my study." After saying this, the elder walked away. Mr. Leo was a sharp man, how could he not see the truth of the situation? Though he made his stance clear, who would dare challenge him? Before the gathering could disperse, Daisy Taylor had already run outside. Ethan Leo hurriedly chased after her. Daisy Taylor ran straight to her room, crying as she buried herself in the bed and punched her pillow in frustration. Ethan Leo entered and sat down beside her. "How did you get in?" Daisy Taylor looked up, tears streaming down her face, as she asked him. She clearly remembered locking the door. Chapter 9, The Price of Provoking Him, I Have the Key. Ethan Leo opened the drawer, casually taking out a pack of cigarettes and lighting one up. It was a habit he had for years. Whenever something troubled him, he would sit there and smoke. Daisy Taylor looked at him, pursing her lips. Without a word, she already knew why he was upset. Her small hands gripped the bedsheet tightly as she sat up, lowering her head and silently crying. After a long while. "Are you going to keep crying?" Ethan Leo looked at her with an indescribable expression. Suddenly, he stubbed out his cigarette, stood up, and started heading out. "Hey! Where are you going?" Daisy Taylor raised her tear-filled eyes to look at him. "I'm going for a walk." "You should sleep first," Ethan Leo replied without turning back. "Hey!" Daisy Taylor called out to him again, wiping away her tears and extending her hand. "Where's my gift?" Ethan Leo lowered his gaze, turned around, and walked back toward her. He pulled a small, exquisite box out of his pocket and handed it to her. "Open it and see." Daisy Taylor took it, opened the box, and her large, tear-streaked eyes immediately lit up like a little rabbit's. Wow! Such a big diamond! She was instantly excited, staring at the diamond nearly the size of a pigeon egg, touching it with fascination as if her sadness had been replaced entirely by greed. Is this gift valuable enough? Ethan Leo asked, seeing her happiness, which lifted his mood as well. More than enough, more than enough. Daisy Taylor nodded enthusiastically. You're the best. Suddenly, she lunged forward and planted a kiss on his handsome face. Ethan Leo froze for a moment, losing his balance and falling onto Daisy Taylor on the bed. The close contact in such a sensitive area made him momentarily uneasy, but he masked it with a smirk. What's this? Are you so happy that you want to repay me with your body? Daisy Taylor looked at him with a mischievous smile. Suddenly feeling playful, she wrapped her arms around his neck, intentionally brushing her fingers provocatively against his skin. Do you think I wouldn't dare? Ethan Leo frowned slightly. Her actions seemed to be testing his limits. His mind was spinning, but a sliver of reason told him that Daisy Taylor was just teasing, not serious. Stop messing around. He shifted his body, trying to get up, but Daisy Taylor pulled him back, biting her lip and looking at him provocatively. Now it's you who doesn't dare. Ethan Leo turned his face away, avoiding her gaze, trying hard to suppress himself. Until she truly loved him, she was still just a child in his eyes. Seeing him freeze and not move, Daisy Taylor gave another mischievous smile. Enough. Suddenly turning back, Ethan Leo could no longer hold back. He looked at her with bloodshot eyes, his large hand gripping her slender wrist tightly. Through gritted teeth, he asked, Tell me. Who am I to you right now? Ethan Leo. Rip. Before she could finish, Ethan Leo tore her clothes apart. This is the price you pay for provoking me. With that, he let out a growl and lunged at her. Ah! Ethan Leo, you bastard, let me go. It hurts. Daisy Taylor finally reacted, screaming in distress. The feeling of being deceived by a grey wolf with wealth only to be devoured was truly awful. She was furious. Absolutely furious. The morning birdsong was melodious and pure, as sunlight gently streamed through the window, illuminating the exceptionally handsome face of Ethan Leo. His beautiful thin lips curved into a satisfied smile, shedding his usual cold demeanor for an expression filled with tenderness. It was as if he was still lost in a dream, clinging to the memory of a beloved figure with lingering affection. His icy eyes flickered slightly as he gradually woke up. Turning over, Ethan Leo reached out to the other side of the bed, only to find it empty. Suddenly, he opened his eyes wide, realizing that Daisy Taylor was nowhere to be found on the messy bed. He sat up abruptly, threw on his robe, and was about to go out to search for her when he noticed some lipstick-written words on the bathroom mirror. Old man, you lustful virgin dared to treat me so roughly. I never want to see you again. Let's pretend last night never happened. I want to be free to fly with my love. Goodbye forever. Chapter 10, Anger Me, and You Won't Escape. Ethan Leo took a deep breath, the tenderness from earlier vanishing instantly. His fist clenched tightly as he punched the mirror, blood splattering everywhere. He gritted his teeth, breathing heavily, his gaze fixed on the shattered mirror with a chilling intensity. His birthday had passed, the gift had been given, and he had treated her with utmost care. Yet after just one night, she had left without a word. Daisy Taylor, are you playing games with me? If so, why did you become my woman? Ethan Leo glared at the remaining lipstick message on the broken mirror, his anger surging. Pretend last night never happened. Ha, Daisy Taylor, you've provoked me, and now you won't escape. Wrapping a cloth around his bleeding hand, he turned back into the bedroom, dressed quickly, and loaded his gun. His gaze lingered on the vivid crimson stain on the bed, his expression colder than ever. He had forgiven Daisy Taylor countless times for Ming Lucas, but this time, he absolutely couldn't. Knock, Knock. At that moment, a knock came from outside the door. Daisy, it's Grandpa. Are you awake yet? Mr. Leo's voice came softly from outside, accompanied by a sly smile. Yesterday, he had personally seen Ethan go looking for Daisy and not return. Then he'd heard from the servants about strange noises coming from their room during the night. This delighted him immensely. TSK, Daisy and Ethan had finally consummated their relationship. They needed proper nourishment now. He was determined to have a great-grandchild to dote on soon. Ethan Leo froze, clenching his injured hand tightly, unsure whether to open the door. Knowing his grandfather's personality, he decided it was better to face the situation head-on rather than prolong it. He stepped forward and opened the door, only to be stunned by the scene before him. "Grandpa, what is this?" Mr. Leo's sly smile deepened. "You two must be tired from last night, so I had the servants prepare a nourishing herbal soup for you both. Quickly wake Daisy up to drink it while it's still hot, it won't taste as good when it cools." He signaled for the servants to bring the soup inside. "Grandpa, Daisy, she." Ethan Leo maintained his composure, hesitated for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, "Daisy has run away from home." "What?" Mr. Leo's eyes widened in shock. "What on earth happened?" "Last night, Daisy was crying, and I went to comfort her. Did you bully her?" Grandpa interrupted angrily before Ethan Leo could finish his sentence. "Grandpa, I didn't bully Daisy, it was her who." "If you didn't bully her, then why did she run away from home?" "Still dare to argue?" Mr. Leo angrily slammed his cane onto the ground, glaring at him furiously. "Do you know where she went?" "Not yet." But he was certain this matter was definitely related to Ming Lucas. Thinking of this, his gaze turned icy. "Whoever kidnapped Daisy, go settle it with them. If you can't find Daisy, don't bother coming back." Mr. Leo roared coldly. As a lifelong leader, his sharp eyes saw through everything. He didn't believe Ethan Leo's words. No one could deceive him. "Throw the soup away." Turning to order the servants, Mr. Leo's expression darkened as he descended the stairs. Afterward, Ethan Leo also went downstairs and stormed out, driving his Genesis SUV at full speed to the Lucas family to confront Ming Lucas. Slamming him to the ground, he pressed a gun to his head and roared in fury, "Speak. Where are you hiding Daisy?" I don't know." Ming Lucas trembled in fear, having been enjoying himself with a few girls in the room when this iceberg of a man barged in, as fierce as if he intended to kill him. "You don't know." Narrowing his cold eyes, Ethan Leo's finger on the trigger began to tighten. Wait, Ethan, let's talk this through calmly. Shooting and spilling blood won't solve anything." Hearing the sound of the trigger, Ming Lucas knew Ethan Leo wasn't joking this time. His life was on the line, and he hadn't lived enough yet. "Speak now. Where is she?" The gun pressed harder against his temple as Ethan Leo's patience wore thin. "Ethan, please spare me. After Daisy Taylor's birthday party, I went straight home with my father and stayed there the whole time. Everyone here can testify. In other words, I've been busy enjoying myself with these girls in the room. How would I have time to go looking for Daisy Taylor? Besides. Ming Lucas broke out in a cold sweat, his whole body trembling. "Besides, killing someone is illegal, Ethan. You need to think this through." Chapter 11, Look. A UFO. Seeing Ming Lucas scared to the point of tears, Ethan Leo sneered disdainfully, tightened his lips, stood up, and fired 2 shots straight at Ming's thigh. Although it didn't hit any vital part, it was enough to make Ming Lucas roll on the ground in pain. Seeing his pitiful state, it was evident that he wasn't capable of kidnapping Daisy Taylor. Ethan Leo coldly looked down at him. "Consider this a warning. If you encounter Daisy again, you better get lost immediately." Ouch. Ming Lucas could only roll around groaning in agony, forgetting to even respond. Without Ethan Leo's words, he wouldn't dare provoke Daisy Taylor again. This deadly plaything was something he wouldn't dare mess with. Humph. Ethan Leo let out a cold snort, put away his gun, and turned to leave. Daisy Taylor wasn't with Ming Lucas. He had searched everywhere else, so where could she be? Suddenly, Ethan Leo thought of someone. Charles, the eldest daughter of the Charles group. She was the same age as Daisy Taylor. 8 years ago, during a party when Daisy accidentally burned Lucy Lucas's leg and was bullied, Charles stepped in to help. Since then, the two have become good friends. Her personality was just like Daisy's, but she had an intense fear of his older brother, Julian Leo. As a close friend who spent all her time with Daisy Taylor, how could she not know Daisy's whereabouts? With that thought, he stepped on the gas and drove straight to find Charles. A loud boom echoed as the intense rock music blared, neon lights flashed, and the handsome DJ skillfully played his set, pushing the atmosphere to its peak. Charles closed her eyes, swaying to the rhythm in the middle of the dance floor. Up front, a few seductive dancers popped a champagne bottle with a loud pop, creating a champagne rain that sprayed over the ecstatic crowd, eliciting endless screams. Suddenly, Charles's phone vibrated in her pocket. Annoyed, she answered the call and moved to a quieter spot. "Hello, who is it?" Upon hearing the caller's voice, she instantly sobered up and quickly put on a smile. "Big sis, weren't you already at the airport? Why are you? Don't even bring it up. The flight got delayed, my wallet was stolen, and I'm starving. Hurry up and bring me some food." Daisy Taylor's commanding tone left Charles both amused and exasperated. "Big sis, the airport is really far, and besides, didn't Ethan Leo give you, wait, oh no. Your great demon king is here, run." Seeing Ethan Leo pushing through the crowd toward her, Charles turned and bolted. "Charles, I'm warning you, don't let him know where I am, or I'll kill you." Daisy's voice rang out from the phone. All right, I get it." Charles grumbled as she hung up and kept running. Seriously, what did they take her for? "Boss, don't kill me. I'll tell you everything." Suddenly grabbed by the collar, Charles raised both hands in surrender, looking back at Ethan Leo with teary eyes. Ethan Leo said nothing. "Speak. Where's Daisy?" Charles's eyes darted around nervously as she forced a fake laugh. "I really don't know." "Ha. Really?" Ethan Leo's lips curled into a cold smile, clearly unconvinced. "But just now, you clearly said you'd spill everything." "That's right." Charles wriggled out of his grip, continuing her act. "What I meant was, I'll tell you that I truly don't know anything. Not a clue." "Is that so?" Ethan Leo stared at her, his expression growing darker. "Then maybe I should find a place where you can explain properly." "Find a place?" What, did he think she was an idiot? Suddenly, she pointed behind him. "Look! A UFO." As Ethan Leo turned to look, Charles seized the opportunity to slip away. When he turned back, his handsome face darkened further. Quietly, he pulled out his phone and made a call. "Big bro, you better keep your wife in check." Chapter 12, Is there anyone more mischievous and unruly than her? 5 minutes later. "Hurry up and get over here." Julian Leo's deep voice was warm yet chilling to the bone. His dark eyes fixed coldly on Charles, who was hiding in the distance. His extraordinarily handsome face remained expressionless, exuding an innate aura that overwhelmed everyone around him. Charles stared at him dumbfounded, completely thrown off by his imposing presence. But stepping out meant certain death, and staying hidden meant even worse. So, she decided to play dead. Julian Leo narrowed his eyes slightly, striding forward and pulling Charles out from the corner where she was hiding. "Move! I can't go, I'm already dead," Charles pouted in defiance, struggling to pull back. Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Julian Leo snapped coldly, yanking her up with force. Playing tricks on him was utterly futile. You're hurting me. Charles frowned, turning her head to see Ethan Leo leisurely sipping red wine at the bar not far away. Furious, she gritted her teeth and shouted, Ethan Leo, even if I die, I won't tell you where Daisy went. Remember this day, I won't let you off so easily. Ethan Leo casually glanced at her, then turned away to continue enjoying his wine. With his brother present, he didn't believe Charles wouldn't spill the truth. After they left, Ethan Leo also exited the bar. He drove aimlessly around the streets for a few rounds, his car moving slowly, hoping to spot Daisy Taylor somewhere. But the higher his hopes, the greater his disappointment. It wasn't until the early hours of the morning that he finally returned. Mr. Leo scolded him a few times for failing to find Daisy Taylor but didn't go as far as chasing him down like earlier that morning. However, he issued an order: within 1 month, Daisy Taylor must be found, or Ethan Leo would face severe consequences. Damn it, less than 2 days later, Daisy Taylor called Grandpa again using a public phone, still playing the pitiful act, showering him with flattery and persuasion. She urged him to take care of his health and not to blame Ethan, claiming everything had nothing to do with him. She begged for a spiritual journey, leaving home, and insisted she didn't want to see Ethan Leo anymore. Her words clearly implied that Ethan Leo had bullied her, forcing her to leave. Mr. Leo, upon hearing this, was moved to tears. After hanging up, he immediately went to confront Ethan Leo. Ethan Leo was utterly baffled. What exactly was Daisy Taylor up to? Running away secretly was already outrageous enough, but now she pulled this stunt on top of it. Was there anyone in the world more troublesome and shameless than her? For months later, Charles, unable to endure Julian Leo's torment any longer, approached Ethan Leo and spilled everything about Daisy Taylor. He only begged Ethan to say a few words to Julian Leo to let her off the hook. She had been forced to write self-reflections for 4 months and couldn't take it anymore. Ethan Leo sent Charles away and immediately went to the nearby city of H to find Daisy Taylor. However, the landlord informed him that she had moved out a few days prior. This infuriated him. Despite all his efforts, he still couldn't find her. At that moment, Mr. Leo called again to scold him, further aggravating his mood. Frustrated, he drove to a bar in the city. The dazzling, vibrant lights intertwined, making the people immersed in the music even more uninhibited. Ethan Leo sat at the bar counter, gently swirling a glass of amber liquor. He smirked slightly and tilted his head back to finish the drink. As soon as he placed the glass down, he heard a commotion from the other side. It seemed some conflict had arisen. He frowned slightly but paid no attention, pouring himself another drink. However, a coarse male voice suddenly roared, "You little b*****, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Coming here to play, yet acting all innocent with me. Guys, get her. Tonight, she's serving me. Try laying a finger on me, and you'll see." A crisp, icy female voice rang out, carrying an undeniable threat that was no joke. "Let's see if you really have what it takes today. Get her." A furious shout was followed by the sound of shattering glass. Several men who charged forward had their heads smashed open, blood streaming everywhere. "You filthy wh***re. Are you tired of living?" Seeing the situation, the coarse man became enraged and charged straight at her. The bar's music gradually quieted down because of the chaos, and everyone turned their attention to the scene unfolding before them. Chapter 13, Running away from pain. Ethan Leo, annoyed by the noise, strode forward, grabbed the collar of the burly man, spun him around, caught his arm, and threw him forward. He twisted the man's middle finger and pressed his foot against his head, pinning him to the ground. At this moment, as he instinctively turned his head, his gaze fell on a familiar face, and his expression immediately turned icy. Gritting his teeth, he shouted 3 words, "Taylor. Daisy. Man." Daisy Taylor froze, her instincts warning her that being found by him this time would undoubtedly lead to a miserable outcome. So, run. Stop right there. Just as Daisy Taylor turned to flee, Ethan Leo's cold voice made her halt. Slowly, she turned back, forcing a sheepish smile. Brother, is there something you need to say? You've done so many creative things, don't you think you owe me an explanation? As he spoke, his hand, still twisting the burly man's finger, suddenly applied more pressure. Ethan Leo's dark, furious gaze locked onto her. Ow, ow, ow. It hurts. It hurts. The burly man cried out in agony, cold sweat dripping down his face. Hey, let me go, will you? Whatever grudge you two have, don't take it out on me. Shut up. Ethan Leo's large hand yanked harder, his mood worsening by the second. He was furious with Daisy Taylor, but that didn't mean he would let others bully her. Daisy Taylor, of course, knew what he was referring to. After sneaking away for months and even badmouthing him to his grandfather, she could only imagine how his grandfather's usual temperament would react. It was a wonder he wasn't being hunted across the globe. It seemed Ethan hadn't been home for a long time. Sigh, poor guy. Looking at him, Daisy Taylor helplessly shook her head. What's done is done. What's happened has already happened. There's no way to fix it. What do you expect me to explain? You. Ethan Leo, overwhelmed with rage, released the burly man and took a stride to stand before Daisy Taylor. Grabbing her collar, he lifted her up, gritting his teeth. Explain why you agreed to be my woman if you didn't love me. And after becoming my woman, why did you run away? Daisy Taylor looked at him in bewilderment, clearly frightened by his reaction. Was this such a strange thing? She shrugged naturally and said, I became your woman out of curiosity, and I ran away because it hurt too much. The most savage reply in history made Ethan Leo utterly furious, to the point where he wanted to strangle this damn troublemaker. I know you're really angry right now, but if we don't run immediately, I think both of us will be wiped out here. With that, Daisy Taylor poked his shoulder, signaling him to look behind. Ethan Leo, still gripping Daisy Taylor's collar tightly, turned his head to look. The burly man who had just slipped away had now returned with a gang of men charging in aggressively, each wielding a large machete. What are you still staring at? Seeing Ethan Leo frozen, Daisy Taylor grew anxious. She struggled out of his grip, grabbed a few bottles of liquor, and prepared to charge forward. Ethan Leo smirked disdainfully, pulling Daisy Taylor behind him. His cold gaze locked on the approaching group as he swiftly and skillfully drew his gun, loaded it, and aimed directly at them. The advancing group came to an abrupt halt, collectively stepping back a few paces, staring at Ethan Leo in terror. His aura and piercing gaze made it clear he wasn't bluffing. The burly man looked around nervously, swallowing hard before addressing Ethan Leo, Don't take out a toy gun to scare us. We're not afraid of that. Bang! 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 Several gunshots rang out, sending dirt flying around their feet. The group immediately panicked, some even wetting themselves in fear, dropping to their knees and begging, mercy, please. We were wrong. We won't dare offend you again. Please don't kill us. Wah! Scram! Ethan Leo roared, his face darkened. If provoked any further, he wasn't sure if he could hold back from actually pulling the trigger on them. Chapter 14, Whose Child Is It? Yes, yes, yes. The group rolled away in a hurry. Wow! Ethan, you're amazing. Daisy Taylor clapped her hands lightly, flashing a flattering smile. Ethan Leo turned to look at her with a cold gaze, reloading his gun. His deep voice asked, Can you come back with me now? Daisy Taylor looked at him, then at the gun, forcing a nervous smile. Well. Oh no. My stomach hurts, she suddenly clutched her belly, grimacing in pain, her acting skills truly top-notch. Stop pretending. Ethan Leo didn't believe her. Since they were kids, she always used this trick to fool him. However, as soon as she mentioned a stomachache, he noticed, why had her stomach grown so much in just a few months? This sign seemed familiar. Ethan Leo narrowed his eyes, his cold gaze piercing her. Why is your stomach so big? No. Just eating too much. Lately, I've been gaining weight. Daisy Taylor straightened up, looking at him seriously, and suddenly her stomachache vanished. Gaining weight? Ethan Leo grabbed her and threw her against the wall, pinning her down as he stared intently. You'd better tell the truth, or else, don't blame me for being ruthless. Daisy Taylor looked at him, blinking her eyes. She stood upright and lifted her chin defiantly. Let's see how ruthless you can be. I'm not telling you anything, what can you do to me? Not talking, huh? He chuckled coldly, a sinister expression appearing on his handsome face. Ethan Leo raised his hand, tearing her shirt, and buried his face against her soft curves. Ah! What are you doing? Daisy Taylor screamed, drawing quite a few gazes. The recent commotion had already caused a stir here, and now they became the center of attention once again. If you don't speak, I'll eat you right here. For someone like Daisy Taylor, special measures had to be taken. Ah! I'll talk. Daisy Taylor struggled, not expecting Ethan Leo to actually follow through. Ethan Leo, you scoundrel. I'm pregnant. Stop it. Damn it. You can't do this when I'm pregnant, it'll harm the baby. At this moment, she was still worried about this. Whose is it? Ethan Leo raised his head, stopping in his tracks, his gaze on Daisy Taylor cold and deep like an abyss. The moment he found out who the man was, he would surely kill him. Daisy Taylor looked at him, swallowing nervously. It's your uncle's. Daisy Taylor. Ethan Leo roared, gripping his gun tightly. He was furious not only because of how Daisy Taylor treated him but even more because she didn't know how to respect herself. Wasn't being toyed with by Ming Lucas once enough? And now she was carrying his child. His anger burned, but so did his heartbreak for Daisy Taylor. Seeing him so enraged, Daisy Taylor felt a bit uneasy. Well, if there's nothing else, can I leave now? She said, cautiously stepping aside. You want to be a single mother? Thud. A strong, firm hand landed on Daisy Taylor's shoulder as Ethan Leo blocked her path again. Hey, it's not your child, why do you care so much? Daisy Taylor's face darkened. After how he treated her just now, and now meddling in her affairs again, she felt extremely annoyed. I'll care about it today. Ethan Leo was completely provoked. He hoisted Daisy Taylor onto his shoulder, gritting his teeth as he strode out. That bastard abandoned you, and you think you can be a single mother? If it's not my child, it won't be kept. Ethan Leo. Where are you taking me? Put me down right now. Daisy Taylor twisted and struggled, her fists angrily pounding on his shoulder. I'm telling you, let me down this instant. Ethan Leo said nothing, gripping Daisy Taylor tightly, his expression dark as he walked out. He threw her into the car, buckled her seatbelt, and drove straight to the military hospital. Chapter 15, A New Demon Follows the Perverted Old Man. Ethan, put me down right now. Where is this? I'm so scared. Daisy Taylor had been shouting countless times, her voice hoarse and her energy drained. She started to play her usual trick, pretending to be pitiful. Ethan Leo ignored her completely, opened the door to the medical room on the 4th floor, stepped in, and threw Daisy Taylor onto the hospital bed with wheels, restraining her firmly. The strong smell of disinfectant filled Daisy Taylor's nose. Even though the room was dark, she knew this was a hospital. A bad premonition surged within her, and she struggled to escape. Get back here. Ethan Leo grabbed her, holding her tightly and pushing her straight into a corner, pinning her so she couldn't move. "Ethan Leo. What exactly do you want from me?" A flash of fear crossed her heart as Daisy Taylor anxiously shouted at him. "If the child isn't mine, then this abomination can't stay," Ethan Leo said coldly. He forcefully pressed down on her shoulders, his large hand gripping her thigh to keep her in place on the chair, then turned to call for the doctor. "Ah! You bastard! What are you trying to do? Let me go." Daisy Taylor was genuinely terrified, struggling desperately to break free. "I'm warning you, if you dare lay a hand on me, I won't forgive you even in death. Stay still. If you keep moving like this, how am I supposed to fetch the doctor?" Ethan Leo restrained her small, writhing body until he securely fastened her to the chair with a safety belt. Only then did he feel reassured enough to leave and call the doctor. At this moment, Daisy Taylor's spirit was nearly shattered. "Ethan Leo, you're not human. To come up with such a despicable act, you're utterly devoid of humanity, completely insane. Why are you cursing me? I'm helping you. Do you want to see another Ming Lucas? Without this, we can still have other children in the future." His lips curled into a cold smile, and his gaze toward Daisy Taylor became unreadable. "Have children with your sister. I, Daisy Taylor, would rather die than have a child with a scumbag like you. Let me go." Daisy Taylor struggled as if her life depended on it, cursing loudly, her hatred for Ethan Leo burning deep into her very bones. "Then there's no other way." After saying this, he turned around and walked out. Daisy Taylor shivered, tears streaming down her face. "Stop. The child is yours." Ethan Leo halted his steps, turning back to look at her. Her small face was filled with terror. Moments ago, she denied the child was his, but now she finally admitted the truth. Ethan Leo had gotten the answer he wanted, a smug smile curling at the corners of his lips, but he wasn't about to let her off so easily. He retorted, "Where's the proof?" Hearing this, Daisy Taylor's anger flared. She pushed him away and shouted, "Ethan Leo. I, Daisy Taylor, have only ever been with you. Are you brain dead? How dare you say such things? Are you even human?" Ethan Leo looked at her, her large eyes blazing with fury, as though she wanted to devour him alive. Despite her outburst, he wasn't angry. In fact, he felt a twinge of satisfaction. It proved her reaction was genuine. From start to finish, Daisy Taylor had always been his. "All right, I believe you," Ethan Leo said as he moved closer. It had been so long since he'd seen her, he genuinely wanted to hold her and the child she carried. "You believe me now?" Daisy Taylor stepped back, her eyes narrowing coldly. "I'd be a fool to trust you again." With that, she turned and walked away. At the bar, he had tried to force himself on her. Thinking the child wasn't his, he had been ready to destroy it himself. Ming Lucas might be despicable, but what about Ethan? Only a fool would stick around with such a monster. "It's not up to you." Ethan Leo strode forward, grabbed Daisy Taylor, and hoisted her over his shoulder. Without hesitation, he carried her away. She had run away once before, and it had taken him great effort to find her again. Now that she was carrying his child, there was no way he'd let her escape so easily. Chapter 16, Don't Push Your Luck. "Ah ah ah. Ethan Leo, you scoundrel, you ruffian. Put me down now." Daisy Taylor screamed and struggled, "Am I some kind of cargo? Being carried around like this, how will I ever face anyone again?" "You're an idiot. You've already lost all face and dignity," Ethan Leo retorted as he strode into the car with Daisy Taylor and drove straight back to the Leo family mansion. "Grandpa, I found her," Ethan Leo announced as he entered the living room where Mr. Leo was seated. He carried Daisy Taylor like a kitten and placed her in front of him. Cough cough, seeing Daisy Taylor return, Mr. Leo was so overjoyed he choked on his tea. He quickly set the cup down and stood up, looking at Daisy Taylor with deep concern. "Child, where have you been? I've missed you so much." His gaze fell on her tied hands, and he immediately turned to Ethan Leo. "Why is she tied up?" "She wasn't behaving," Ethan Leo explained. "I think you're the one who needs discipline. Untie her immediately." Mr. Leo scolded angrily. Ethan Leo reluctantly untied Daisy Taylor, but he noticed a sly glint in her eyes. Sure enough, the moment she was free, Daisy Taylor threw herself into Mr. Leo's arms, crying, "Grandpa. I've missed you so much. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have run away from home. Even if 1,000 or 10,000 people dislike me and bully me, I should have endured it for your sake and not left. Silly child, how could I blame you? It's those heartless bastards' fault for bullying even their own wife." Mr. Leo said, his sharp eyes glaring at Ethan Leo. Ethan Leo calmly watched the scene unfold, finally understanding the meaning behind Daisy Taylor's gaze. Running away from home and being brought back, if she didn't turn the situation around and gain sympathy, it wouldn't be her style. "Grandpa, you can't blame Ethan. He's actually a good person, he just loves me too much. Otherwise, the first thing he wouldn't have done after finding me is—" Daisy Taylor leaned her head against Mr. Leo's chest, crying pitifully, but her eyes remained fixed on Ethan Leo. Her fake tears were a masterpiece of revenge. "What?" Mr. Leo exclaimed, turning to Ethan Leo with a cold expression. "Did you really do that?" Ethan Leo was momentarily speechless, his cold eyes glaring at the theatrics of Daisy Taylor. He clenched his fists in anger, unable to believe she would say such a thing. He was at a loss for words. Seeing his reaction, Mr. Leo took it as a confession. He knew his grandson too well. If it weren't true, Ethan would have denied it immediately. Furious, Mr. Leo slammed his cane on the coffee table in front of Ethan Leo. "Doing something so disgraceful. You've brought shame to the Leo family. Grandpa, please don't get angry, it's bad for your health." Ethan Leo tried to calm him, his cold eyes signaling Daisy Taylor to stop. But Daisy Taylor, with her tearful yet defiant eyes, wasn't afraid of him. She continued crying pitifully, playing the victim. "How can I not be angry when you've done such a thing? You like Daisy, and I don't object to that, but you can't act so shamelessly in broad daylight. You're unworthy of being part of the Leo family." Mr. Leo slammed his cane on the floor, his rage making him want to disown his disgraceful grandson. "Grandpa, I had no choice." Ethan Leo frowned slightly, unwilling to see his grandfather's health worsen from anger. He tried to explain, but Mr. Leo refused to listen. Instead, his anger grew, and he raised his cane, ready to strike Ethan. "Shut up." Daisy Taylor's eyes darted around, and she quickly leapt forward, hugging Mr. Leo's legs as she cried, "No, Grandpa, don't blame Ethan. He only did it because he loves me too much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have caused trouble at the bar or pulled a gun on those thugs." "Daisy Taylor. Don't push it too far." Ethan Leo growled. Chapter 17, taking the chance to torment her. Ethan Leo glared at her with anger and resentment in his eyes. "That moment was to save you, can't you see that? Ethan, you're so skilled in martial arts. There was really no need to draw a gun for my sake. It wasn't worth it." Daisy Taylor closed her eyes, crying bitterly. "Wasn't I protecting you?" Ethan Leo looked at her state and felt like losing his mind. "But you shouldn't have caused trouble at the bar, let alone flirt with other women. That's really not right, Ethan." Daisy Taylor continued to feign sorrow, adding fuel to the fire. Mr. Leo didn't even give Ethan a chance to argue, charging forward directly. Flirting with Daisy in broad daylight, recklessly pulling out a gun, such a serious military mistake. "You scoundrel. And on top of that, flirting with other women. Do you think you're worthy of Daisy?" Daisy Taylor was always Mr. Leo's precious treasure. Whatever she said was true, was right. With this incident, there was no way Mr. Leo would let Ethan Leo off easily. Once again, Daisy Taylor got her way, leaving Ethan Leo to truly question why he even brought her back in the first place. Being treated this way, Lady Leo was naturally displeased. She had never liked Daisy Taylor and thought that when she left home this time, she wouldn't return. Who would have thought she'd be brought back? It made Lady Leo grind her teeth in frustration. "Hey, you, come here." Seeing Daisy Taylor coming downstairs and sitting on the sofa in the living room, Lady Leo called out to her coldly. Daisy Taylor looked up. The old woman always carried herself with an air of superiority that Daisy found incredibly irritating. Slowly, she walked over. "What is it?" "I want a cup of Blue Mountain coffee from the Newland Sinek farm." Looking at Daisy Taylor with a casual expression, Lady Leo placed just enough money for 1 cup of coffee on the coffee table. "Go buy it. Walk there. If you take a taxi or if the coffee gets cold, I won't drink it." Newland Sinek farm is located on a mountain, a distance away from the outskirts. Yet, the old lady demanded her to walk and buy coffee without letting it get cold, clearly making things difficult for her. But with Grandpa and Ethan Leo not at home, if she refused, this old woman might make up some story to frame her. She wouldn't let her have her way. Casually bending down to grab the money, her disdainful gaze swept over the old lady. "If you're not afraid, I'll poison it, then just wait." Lady Leo's face changed. Knowing Daisy Taylor's cunning nature and her penchant for mischief, she quickly added, "If the coffee tastes strange or is undrinkable, I'll call the police and say you poison it." Alright, so this old woman, seeing that her family wasn't around to spoil her, decided to take the chance to torment her. When the cat's away, the mice will play. Daisy Taylor shot her a contemptuous glance. "Coward." "Humph." Turning around, she stormed off. Filled with resentment, Daisy Taylor summoned all her strength, running back and forth for over 2 hours before finally bringing the coffee back. But as soon as she entered the house, the sound of mahjong tiles clacking greeted her ears. Grinding her teeth, she clenched the bag in her hand tightly and reluctantly approached the mahjong table. Sitting there were 3 wealthy ladies along with Lady Leo, familiar faces to Daisy Taylor. "Newland Sinek Farms coffee," Daisy Taylor said, holding the thermos with both hands and slightly bowing her head, appearing obedient and considerate. "Can't you see I'm playing mahjong? I don't have time to drink coffee." "Go play somewhere else," Lady Leo said impatiently, casting a glance at Daisy Taylor. Then she asked indifferently, "Is it still hot?" "It's in a thermos, it won't get cold," Daisy Taylor replied, smiling sweetly, her innocent snaggletooth showing. She opened the thermos and swiftly took out 3 cups of coffee, placing one in front of each lady. "Aunties, please try it. It's very delicious." "Oh, Daisy is so thoughtful." Indeed, the ladies said cheerfully, inwardly thinking that Daisy Taylor wasn't as troublesome as Lady Leo had described. "And where's mine?" Lady Leo asked, noticing that her mahjong companions all had coffee while she did not. Her brows furrowed in displeasure as she raised her voice. Daisy Taylor blinked and hugged the thermos to her chest, fiddling with her fingers. "I originally planned to give 1 cup to Auntie, 1 to Ethan, and 1 to Grandpa, but since the aunties are here," seeing Daisy Taylor's hesitation, the ladies exchanged glances. One of them, her expression slightly changing, said, "In that case, I won't drink anymore." Chapter 18, I didn't mean it. Hearing that, Lady Leo's expression faltered slightly. She glared at Daisy Taylor before quickly forcing a smile and saying, "There's no such thing. I bought it to drink, not to miss out this time. I was even worried you might not like it." "That's good then." The other person's face softened slightly, taking a graceful sip of coffee. "The flavor is spot on, and the temperature is just right. Daisy, you've been very thoughtful." "I'm glad you like it, Auntie," Daisy Taylor immediately replied with a bright smile, her eyes curving. Seeing Lady Leo trying to suppress her emotions, she felt inwardly triumphant. She thought to herself, making me buy coffee, huh? Humph, it must feel great to see it but not be able to drink it. When Lady Leo noticed Daisy Taylor's smug smile, her anger flared up, and the cracks in her forced smile became apparent. Turning to Daisy Taylor with a stiff grin, she ordered, "Isn't the floor still uncleaned? Why don't you get to it?" Daisy Taylor's brief moment of joy was entirely extinguished by Lady Leo's words. Frustrated, she replied, "I'm going right now." She muttered inwardly, "Knew it, always picking on me. Does Daisy handle all the cleaning in your house? Don't you hire housekeepers?" "We do hire help, but Daisy is just too diligent. She keeps saying she wants to lose weight and exercise, so she insists on doing the chores. We can't stop her. Anyone who doesn't know better might think I'm mistreating her." "This girl, honestly," Lady Leo deflected with a casual laugh. Every word of Lady Leo's explanation reached Daisy Taylor's ears, and she was fuming. She wanted nothing more than to scratch that smug face of hers. How infuriating. Turning black into white with such ease. Daisy Taylor reluctantly went to fetch water to mop the floor. Staring at the long, endless hallway, she puffed her cheeks in frustration and grumbled, "It's all Ethan Leo's fault. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be in this situation. No, she had to make him compensate her. Otherwise, it would be too unfair. What does you mopping the floor have to do with me?" A clear yet mischievous voice suddenly sounded beside Daisy Taylor. "Ah! Who?" Startled, Daisy Taylor lost her footing while holding the water bucket and fell to the ground with a thud. The pain made her grit her teeth as she raised her small face to look up. She saw Ethan Leo dressed in a tight black outfit, arms crossed over his chest, gazing down at her from above. Daisy Taylor glared at him indignantly and asked with wide eyes, "Why are you only back now?" "Just finished work," Ethan Leo replied with a slight smirk. He furrowed his brows as he looked at Daisy Taylor sitting on the floor. Extending his large hand, he grasped her small arm and pulled her up with some force. "The floor is dirty." "Oh, so you know the floor is dirty? Do you even know how much I've been bullied while you weren't home?" Daisy Taylor said angrily, her dark eyes fixed on Ethan Leo. "Do you know where your mother sent me to get her coffee? The Newland Sinek Farm Estate. And she wouldn't even let me take the car. My little legs nearly broke from the walk." "Newland Sinek Farm Estate?" Ethan Leo raised an eyebrow mischievously, his deep gaze studying Daisy Taylor's small face. Was she really this obedient? Hey, hey, hey. What's with that look? You don't believe me, do you?" Noticing Ethan Leo's doubtful expression, Daisy Taylor immediately bristled, placing her hands on her hips as she angrily said, "If you don't believe me, go outside and see for yourself." Seeing Daisy Taylor's flustered demeanor, Ethan Leo's handsome lips curled into a faint smile. Suppressing the urge to laugh, he calmly explained, "I didn't say I didn't believe you." "You," Daisy Taylor raised her small face, wanting to retort, but when her eyes met Ethan Leo's serious gaze, the words she was about to say were swallowed back down for no reason. Ah! It felt like punching a cotton ball, so infuriating. Daisy Taylor's eyes sparkled as she rolled them, staring directly into Ethan Leo's intense gaze, questioning, "Why didn't you tell them I'm pregnant? If you had told them, I wouldn't have had to suffer like this." Suddenly, as if realizing something, Daisy Taylor pointed her slender finger straight at Ethan Leo's nose. "Oh, you did it on purpose, didn't you?" Ethan Leo, both tearful and amused, looked at the fiery Daisy Taylor and grabbed her finger, curling his lips into a smile as he explained, "I didn't do it on purpose." "Then why didn't you tell them?" Chapter 19, I won't beg him. Daisy Taylor forcefully pulled her finger out of Ethan Leo's grasp, glaring at him with a sharp, unfriendly look. "I didn't tell them now because I'm trying to protect you, silly." Ethan Leo flicked Daisy Taylor lightly on the forehead. "Ouch, that hurts." Daisy Taylor quickly raised her hand to rub her forehead, her shimmering eyes glaring at the culprit. Talk properly. Don't use your hands. Using his hands. Ethan Leo frowned, sensing there might be another meaning behind her words. Had he spoiled her too much, making her bold enough to act so recklessly in front of him? Humph, don't think staying silent will resolve this. I don't believe your excuse about protecting me. All I know is that I'm barely surviving right now. If he didn't want to help, he could just say so. Why bother coming up with such noble-sounding reasons? Ethan Leo raised his slender finger to rub his nose, feeling slightly stung by her disdain. It wasn't a pleasant feeling. Daisy Taylor, if you beg me, I might consider another way to make sure my mother doesn't trouble you. Ethan Leo tilted his chin, revealing his fair features, his narrow eyes flashing with a sharp glint. Dream on. Even if I'm tortured to death, I will never beg you. Daisy Taylor crossed her arms over her chest, turning her face away in defiance. She had no intention of pleading with him. Tisk, tisk. Ethan Leo looked at Daisy Taylor with a regretful gaze. What a pity, I was actually planning to. Daisy Taylor felt a surge of frustration rise within her. Taking a deep breath, she tried to suppress the small flame of anger igniting in her heart. She looked at Ethan Leo with an expression of disdain, as if he were a savior she didn't need. You old man, you're so annoying. Let me tell you something today, Ethan Leo. I, Daisy Taylor, will absolutely never beg you. My business is none of your concern. Humph. Daisy Taylor, Ethan Leo gritted his teeth as he called her name. Why was it so difficult for this woman to say something soft for once? It was maddening. His anger flared as he shouted, fine, then keep mopping the floor. Ethan Leo, you jerk. Daisy fumed. How dare he yell at her? Did he really think she was a pushover? Daisy Taylor glanced around, and suddenly, she raised the dirty rag in her hand and pressed it against Ethan Leo's face. I'm done cleaning, she declared before dashing off. Ethan Leo's face darkened immediately. He pulled the foul-smelling rag off his face and threw it forcefully to the ground. Looking in the direction Daisy had disappeared, he yelled, Daisy Taylor, just you wait. Ethan Leo was on the verge of exploding, his entire being radiating a terrifying aura. His fists clenched tightly, his eyes narrowed like an enraged leopard. You don't need my concern, right? Fine, I have no time to bother with your matters, Ethan Leo muttered, his fists tightening as his gaze turned dangerously sharp. Exuding an air of menace, he turned and headed downstairs. As he reached the foot of the stairs, he saw his mother bidding farewell to a few wealthy ladies who had just finished their card game. Ethan Leo, when did you get back? Why didn't I notice you? Lady Leo suddenly spotted Ethan Leo on the stairs and curiously asked. Ethan Leo paused, suppressing his anger, hands in his pockets, his gaze flickering slightly as he calmly replied, I parked at the back door and went straight upstairs. Oh, is that so? Are you hungry? Should I ask the staff to prepare some food for you? Lady Leo asked with genuine concern. Not hungry. Ethan Leo replied bluntly, stepping closer to Lady Leo before stopping in front of her. As if casually, he asked, did you tell Daisy Taylor to walk all the way to Newland Sinek Farm to buy coffee for you? Although Ethan Leo had been thoroughly annoyed by that girl earlier, she was pregnant, and if anything were to truly happen to her, there would be no time for regrets later. After much deliberation, Ethan Leo decided to have a clear conversation with his mother. Chapter 20, I Will Devour You. Ethan Leo knew the relationship between his mother and Daisy Taylor had always been tense, but today's incident was truly over the line. Are you blaming me? Lady Leo looked up at her much taller son with a hint of anger and questioned, what kind of spell has that wild girl cast on all of you, turning everyone against me? A spell? Ethan Leo raised an almost imperceptible eyebrow. A spell, no. But her destructive power? Absolutely devastating. I didn't mean it that way, I just wanted to tell you that Grandpa really likes that girl. Having said enough, Ethan Leo gave Lady Leo a deep look before striding out. I have some work to do, I'll be back later. Lady Leo watched Ethan Leo's retreating figure, her elegant and refined face twisting slightly. Her eyelids lowered halfway, and a sharp glint flashed through her eyes. Ever since the heated argument with Ethan Leo, Daisy Taylor rarely saw him around. Even more strangely, the old lady who usually found fault with her had been unusually quiet. Daisy Taylor's life suddenly became dull, so monotonous that she felt like moss was growing on her. That afternoon, Daisy Taylor carried a small chair and sat at the front gate, her eyes fixed on the entrance. Beep beep. The sound of a car horn startled her awake. Daisy Taylor, who had been dozing off, immediately opened her eyes wide. As if injected with adrenaline, she leapt off the chair in one swift motion. Sure enough, in less than half a minute, Ethan Leo stepped out of the car in his military uniform. He habitually adjusted the creases on his attire, only to be unexpectedly embraced. His body involuntarily staggered back a few steps. Ethan Leo steadied himself and looked down, seeing Daisy Taylor clinging tightly to his waist. His heart softened, and a sly, meaningful smile appeared on his lips as he asked, surprised, surrendering already? Stop talking nonsense. Daisy Taylor raised her small hand and lightly patted his shoulder. Her eyes curved into a sweet smile as she affectionately said, "You've been training all day, are you tired? Let me give you a massage." Ethan Leo paused, giving Daisy Taylor a sidelong glance. "Go ahead, what favor do you need this time?" Hee hee. Daisy Taylor's rosy lips parted, revealing her pearly white teeth. "Ethan Leo, you really know me best. Look, I'm still young, staying home all day with nothing to do. I want to go back to school. What do you think?" As Daisy Taylor spoke, Ethan Leo's expression darkened. His tone turned firm as he replied, "No way." "Why not?" Daisy Taylor's smile vanished instantly. She frowned, puzzled, as she looked at Ethan Leo's devastatingly handsome face. Ethan Leo turned around, his sharp, deep eyes locking onto Daisy Taylor's. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly as he said, "You have a child now, so you can't go." "Hey." Daisy Taylor puffed her cheeks in dissatisfaction, about to say something, but when she saw the determined look in Ethan Leo's eyes, she realized being stubborn wouldn't work. Her clear eyes landed on him as she reached out her small hand to grab his, shaking it back and forth. With a pitiful expression, she pleaded, "I really want to go to school. Please let me go." "No." Ethan Leo's attitude remained unchanged. "Ethan Leo." Daisy Taylor angrily shook off his hand, her stubborn eyes glaring at him as she declared, "I'm telling you, I will definitely go to school." "Fine, go ahead. I won't write a permission note for you. Let's see how you manage to go." Ethan Leo didn't even glance at Daisy Taylor, striding inside. "Going to school with a pregnant belly? Isn't that just a joke? If you don't agree, don't blame me for being ruthless when the time comes." Daisy Taylor hurriedly chased after him, threatening his retreating figure. Ethan Leo took a deep breath, turned around to look at the little tail stubbornly following him, and walked back to stand in front of Daisy Taylor, step by step closing the distance. The imposing aura emanating from him gradually enveloped her petite frame. You better not lay a hand on me." Daisy Taylor, frightened, took a step back. With no room left to retreat, her back hit the wall with a thud. Her clear eyes darted around, looking for an escape route, but just as she was about to slip away, Ethan Leo suddenly extended his strong arm, pressing it against the wall. Gulp. Daisy Taylor swallowed hard, guilty and unable to meet Ethan Leo's gaze. Suddenly, Ethan Leo leaned down, bringing his face close to her ear. His warm breath brushed against her fair skin. Lowering his voice, he spoke in a hoarse tone. If you say one more word, I'll devour you. Chapter 21, Going to School Tomorrow, Hit Someone. Help! Daisy Taylor shouted loudly, ignoring Ethan Leo. Although slightly embarrassed, she couldn't let him take advantage of her. Shut up, Ethan Leo said irritably, cutting her off. Worried she might call someone else over, he quickly reached out to cover her babbling mouth with his hand, his eyes issuing a warning, I didn't hit you. Daisy Taylor shook her head repeatedly, pushing against Ethan Leo's strong arm with all her might, yet she couldn't move him at all. Ugh, Ethan Leo groaned softly, glancing down at her small foot continually kicking him. His handsome face darkened instantly. Stop it. If you want me to let you go, fine, but you have to promise not to scream, Ethan Leo suggested in a gentler tone. Daisy Taylor blinked, her long eyelashes fluttering slightly, and nodded vigorously like a pecking chicken. Only after confirming her agreement did Ethan Leo release her, exhaling a quiet sigh of relief as he looked helplessly at the woman so close to him. Ha, ha. Regaining her breath, Daisy Taylor took 2 deep breaths, feeling suffocated earlier. Suddenly, she raised her head and asked Ethan Leo, so, does this mean you agree to let me go to school? No, Ethan Leo shrugged, raising his narrow eyes slightly. In a flat tone, he added, I don't agree. Forget about it. No matter what you say, I won't let you go. If you don't let me go, I'll expose how you secretly play games at the military base, list out every time you've bullied me, print flyers, and post them everywhere for everyone to see all the terrible things Major General Ethan Leo has done. Hearing Daisy Taylor's words, a crack appeared on Ethan Leo's strikingly handsome face. His amber eyes locked onto her petite face, which was barely the size of his hand. Daisy Taylor, you wouldn't dare. Daisy Taylor fearlessly raised her chin, meeting Ethan Leo's furious gaze head-on. Go ahead, see if I dare or not. Humph, pushed to the edge, she could do anything. Ethan Leo pressed his lips tightly together, his brows furrowed as his large hand rested on her frail shoulder. Daisy Taylor. I can hear you, can you speak a little softer? Daisy Taylor lazily reached up with her small hand to rub her ear, her casual demeanor grating on Ethan Leo's nerves, no matter how he looked at her. You're attending school while pregnant. What if someone finds out? Ethan Leo's expression grew stern, his voice tinged with anger as he questioned her, clearly unsettled. Daisy Taylor's eyes lit up as she eagerly raised her tiny hand, earnestly swearing, I promise, no one will ever find out. And even if someone does, I absolutely won't admit the child is yours. After speaking, she nodded cooperatively. The more Ethan Leo listened, the stranger her words sounded. His face darkened, and the grip on her shoulder tightened as his lips trembled with fury. Say that again. Ouch, it hurts. Your hand, Ethan Leo. Feeling the sharp pain in her shoulder, Daisy Taylor opened her mouth and wailed loudly, her small fists and legs flailing as she hit him repeatedly. Her feeble strength was nothing to Ethan Leo, but her wild and reckless behavior was something he couldn't tolerate. And furthermore, with you acting like this, how can I feel at ease letting you go to school? Ethan Leo bellowed, his voice echoing loudly. Oh. Daisy Taylor quickly fell silent, adjusting her clothes while glancing at Ethan Leo with a sweet smile, asking, Ethan Leo, did you agree? Ethan Leo lowered his head to meet Daisy Taylor's hopeful gaze. For a moment, he couldn't find a reason to refuse and stiffly nodded, yes, all right. Wow, Ethan Leo, I knew you were the best to me. Daisy Taylor spread her arms wide and gave Ethan Leo a tight hug, her face beaming with happiness. Grandfather. Daisy Taylor's sharp eyes caught sight of the Leo family elder trying not to disturb them. She quickly pushed Ethan Leo aside and ran over. The Leo family elder awkwardly turned around, smiling as he looked at Daisy Taylor running toward him. Daisy, did you see all that? Being accidentally pushed aside by Daisy Taylor, Ethan Leo nearly stumbled. His expression darkened, and his fists clenched tightly. This girl, did she just use him and then toss him aside? This feeling was truly unpleasant. My eyes are sharp, grandfather. Ethan said I was bored at home, so he agreed to let me go to school, Daisy Taylor said with a sweet smile, intimately wrapping her small hands around the Leo family elder's arm. Ethan Leo. Just now, who was it that coerced and tricked him into agreeing? How did it suddenly turn into this version of events from Daisy Taylor's mouth? Really? The Leo family elder nodded happily, looking at Ethan Leo with approval. That's a great idea. Daisy is still young, she should be in school, making friends. Yes, yes. Daisy Taylor nodded enthusiastically, casting a triumphant glance at Ethan Leo. See? Even grandfather agrees she should go to school. This girl was getting too bold, relying on grandfather's support to grow more daring. And yet, there was nothing he could do about her. Ethan Leo's face darkened as he stayed silent. Grandfather, I'll go to school tomorrow to handle the enrollment procedures. Unexpectedly, Daisy Taylor dropped a bombshell with her signature move, instantly snapping Ethan Leo back to attention. His amber eyes widened, his brows furrowed tightly, and without a second thought, he rejected, no way. He hadn't yet arranged everything properly. If this little troublemaker stayed at school, given her temperament, she would undoubtedly cause trouble. From childhood to now, he had cleaned up her messes more times than he could count. What? Not allowed. Daisy Taylor's mischievous eyes darted around. She glared at Ethan Leo before clinging to the Leo family patriarch's arm, lowering her head as she said, Grandpa, I'll listen to Ethan. Even though I really want to go to school and meet the other kids, it's okay. Staying home means I can spend more time with you. If I leave, you'll feel lonely. How could that be? Your job now is to study well. What's the point of staying with an old man like me? The Leo family patriarch's face fell as soon as he heard Daisy Taylor wanted to stay home with him. Resolutely, he said, you must go to school tomorrow. Ethan, you'll personally take Daisy to school. If anyone dares to bully her, let me know, and I'll hold you accountable. Grandpa. Ethan Leo looked at his grandfather in disbelief. Wasn't this spoiling Daisy Taylor too much? Hearing Ethan Leo's suddenly raised voice, Daisy's ears twitched slightly. She continued, Grandpa, you're so good to me, but I really can't bear to be apart from you. Chapter 22, Good Fortune in Relationships. Daisy truly has a heart for her grandpa. Unlike a certain brat, the Leo family patriarch lifted his eyes, casting a meaningful glance at Ethan Leo. He snorted softly, reached out to pat the back of Daisy Taylor's hand, and said with a smile, but studying is still important. Yes, Daisy Taylor obediently nodded, flashing a bright smile that revealed her neat, white teeth. Grandpa, don't worry. I'll definitely study hard. Good, good, good. The Leo family patriarch nodded repeatedly with satisfaction. Then it's settled. Tomorrow, take Daisy to school. These words were directed at Ethan Leo. Ethan Leo had no choice. This little girl had found his weak spot and was using their grandfather to pressure him. All right. Mr. Leo contentedly withdrew his gaze, holding Daisy Taylor's hand as they headed upstairs. Come on, let's play chess with Grandpa. Ethan Leo watched the figures of the elderly man and the young girl gradually disappear, his deep eyes reflecting a faint glimmer. After a moment, he turned and walked away. The next day, Daisy Taylor got her wish to go to school. As soon as they arrived at the school gate, the little girl hurriedly jumped out of the car, slamming the door shut with a loud bang. The sharp sound rang in Ethan Leo's ears. He turned to look at the car door that had been rudely slammed, taking a deep breath. Just as he was about to say something, Daisy Taylor craned her neck, tilted her head, and looked at him. Hey, I'm going in now. You can head back. Ethan Leo opened the car door with his slender fingers, stepping out in his military boots. He leisurely adjusted his clothes, lowered his gaze slightly, and glanced at Daisy Taylor's small face from the corner of his eye. "I'm going in with you." "Go in with her?" Daisy Taylor looked Ethan Leo up and down with her clear, questioning eyes, pouting. "You're too old. Why are you following me in? If my classmates see, I'll be so embarrassed." "Too old? Embarrassed? Humph." So, in this little girl's mind, he wasn't worth presenting in public. An inexplicable flame of anger ignited, burning away his reason. In a low voice, he said, "Daisy Taylor, say that again." He realized that Daisy Taylor had a knack for provoking him, which could be considered one of her unique skills. Seeing Ethan Leo get angry, Daisy Taylor quickly raised her loosely clenched hand, crossing her index fingers and placing them over her rosy lips in a gesture of silence. Her large, sparkling eyes stayed fixed on Ethan Leo without wavering. Ethan Leo pressed his right lip tightly together, his chiseled face showing a hint of helplessness. His strong arm pulled Daisy Taylor, who was gradually retreating, closer as he asked flatly, "Where are you going?" "Huh? Me? I'm not going anywhere." "You're overthinking." Daisy Taylor blinked innocently, her long, curled lashes trembling as she was caught red-handed. "My eyes are perfectly fine," Ethan Leo warned coldly, the sharp light in his narrow eyes seemingly piercing through her thoughts. "Stop playing tricks on me. Do you think I wouldn't notice such petty schemes?" Daisy Taylor puffed her cheeks in frustration and muttered, "Got it, I'll behave." Ethan Leo dominantly grabbed her small hand and led her straight inside, afraid she might sneak away again. "Boss!" A sudden call rang out, and both Daisy Taylor and Ethan Leo turned to look. Daisy Taylor, feeling guilty, quickly averted her gaze from Ethan Leo's stern face and murmured softly, "I don't know anything." Confessing without being questioned. Ethan Leo let out a cold laugh and tilted his sharp chin in the direction of the voice. She saw a male student, standing tall at over 1.8 meters, with decent looks. He was wearing a gray t-shirt and hip-hop jeans, walking toward her. Daisy Taylor hid behind Ethan Leo's tall figure, winking at him to signal not to say anything unnecessary. "What are you doing?" Ethan Leo suddenly turned around and saw Daisy Taylor's hand raised. His voice was cold as he asked, his sharp gaze seeming to pierce into her soul. Daisy Taylor shivered, awkwardly scratching her head with her raised hand, forcing a sheepish smile. "It's so hot today." What a lame excuse. Ethan Leo exposed her lie without holding back, casually adding, "I didn't expect you to be so popular at school. Everyone calls you boss. He deliberately emphasized the word boss. "Hee, well, sort of," Daisy Taylor replied with an awkward laugh. While they were talking, the male student had already approached them. "Boss, where have you been these past few days?" he asked, then glanced at Ethan Leo briefly before quickly averting his gaze. "Everyone misses you and wants you to teach us again. This kid has potential, knowing how to adapt quickly." Daisy Taylor secretly breathed a sigh of relief, putting on an innocent and well-behaved demeanor. "I miss everyone too, but I have something to do right now. How about I come by later?" As she spoke, Daisy Taylor sneaked a glance at Ethan Leo. Ethan Leo caught all her subtle movements, staring at the male student in front of him for a moment. Seeing nothing suspicious, he finally allowed it. "Go ahead." "Ethan Leo, I'll head off then," Daisy Taylor quickly said, her eyes sparkling with barely concealed excitement. Her steps were as light as if she had springs under her feet, and in no time, she had dashed far away. "Boss, wait for me." The male student quickly chased after Daisy Taylor as she left. Ethan Leo's eyes flickered with surprise. He raised his hand to rub his temple as a growing sense of unease spread within him. He couldn't shake the feeling that Daisy Taylor might not be as well behaved at school as she seemed. Finally free from Ethan Leo, Daisy Taylor let out a long sigh of relief. Big sis, why is Big Bro here? The boy chased after her, panting heavily, bending over with his long arms resting on his knees. He looked up with a frightened expression and said, "Just now, when I saw him, my legs almost gave out." Daisy Taylor rolled her eyes and said disdainfully, "Look at you, such a coward. Then why were you running so fast, big sis?" "I couldn't keep up," the boy asked innocently, retracting his hands and standing upright. "Damn it, being looked down upon again." Daisy Taylor walked to the door of his room, raised her head to measure the height difference, then stood on her tiptoes and reached out to pat his short hair. "Can't I just be exercising a little? Do I need your permission? This brat really thinks that just because he's taller than her, she can't handle him." Chapter 23, Accepting Your Challenge. "Yes, big sis." The boy lowered his head, afraid that saying anything more would upset Daisy Taylor. Hands on her hips, Daisy Taylor asked, "While I wasn't at school, did anyone bully you guys?" "Yes." "What?" Daisy Taylor's voice rose a few notches as soon as she heard this. Her eyes flashed with anger as she demanded, "Who?" "Charlie Ray from the neighboring class. While you weren't around, he kept oppressing us. Now, no one dares to mess with them. Big sis, he even declared he's going to surpass your grades." Cole quickly recounted all of Charlie Ray's misdeeds as soon as Daisy Taylor returned. Carefully glancing at her, he added hesitantly, "Even Fanny and the others have joined Charlie Ray's side. Unforgivable." Daisy Taylor's eyes burned with rage as she clenched her small fists, causing a cracking sound. "Those traitors, I'll uproot them all today." Cole's eyes lit up. Just as he was about to say something, he hesitated. Glancing Daisy Taylor up and down suspiciously. Stammering, he said, "Big sis, you've gotten so chubby. Are you still a match for them?" He hadn't noticed before, but now that he looked closely, Daisy Taylor had gained several pounds in the past few months. That figure. Chubby. The corners of Daisy Taylor's mouth twitched, her eyes filled with a murderous glare as she looked at Cole. Suddenly, she raised her hand and struck him, "Before dealing with Charlie Ray, I'll deal with you first. Which eye of yours saw me as fat? If you don't explain yourself today, I'll skin you alive. Big sister." Cole, beaten up by Daisy Taylor, was so frightened that he hurriedly ran away while trying to explain, "Big sister, I was wrong. You're not fat at all, it was just my eyes playing tricks on me." Daisy Taylor chased after him relentlessly, her pearly white teeth grinding together, "Don't you ever mention that word to me again." 30 minutes later, Daisy Taylor gathered her gang of underlings and cornered a plump Charlie Ray under the banyan tree in the schoolyard. The blue and white school uniform he wore stretched tightly around his round figure. If not for his height, he would have looked like a complete ball. Daisy Taylor narrowed her eyes, her gaze as sharp as a blade as she stared at Charlie Ray. Her slender finger brushed against her small nose as she arrogantly asked, "Charlie Ray, I heard you've been acting quite cocky lately." "Miss Daisy Taylor, why are you back?" Charlie Ray stammered, trapped with no way out by Daisy Taylor and her gang. Wasn't it said that Daisy Taylor had disappeared? Where did she suddenly come from? Does that concern you? Daisy Taylor smirked slightly, seeing Charlie Ray's fearful expression. She felt it was almost beneath her to deal with him. "I heard you even want to surpass my achievements." If Daisy Taylor claimed to be second in the entire grade, no one would dare to claim first. This week, Charlie Ray had truly overestimated himself. Charlie Ray felt a bit guilty. His grades indeed couldn't compare to Daisy Taylor's, but she had been gone for months, who would have thought she'd return? Having been overshadowed by Daisy Taylor multiple times, Charlie Ray wasn't one to back down easily. Knowing there was no way to escape today, he straightened up and said, "So what if I do? Daisy Taylor, do you still think you're the boss around here? Most of your underlings have already joined me, Clearly just a doughy figure, yet he dared to sneer in front of her. Daisy Taylor pouted, placing one hand on her hip, her sharp gaze fixed on him. "I'll deal with those traitors myself. But right now, I'll handle you first, so they can see what happens when someone crosses Daisy Taylor." Daisy Taylor raised her small hand, adopting the stance of a true boss, and boldly commanded, "Tie him up for me." "Yes, boss." A few of her lackeys immediately rushed forward to restrain Charlie Ray, who weighed over 70 kilograms. "Let me go." Charlie Ray's face turned red as he struggled, his eyes burning with fury as he glared at Daisy Taylor. Being humiliated by this devilish Daisy Taylor, he knew it wouldn't take long before the news spread throughout the school. The reputation he'd worked so hard to build would crumble into dust. Daisy Taylor slowly approached Charlie Ray, lightly patting him on the shoulder with a harmless smile. "Still causing trouble? Do you know why your so-called followers haven't come to help you?" Hearing Daisy Taylor's mocking tone, Charlie Ray snapped his head up, staring at her in shock, a chill running down his spine. Yet, he stubbornly tried to save face. "Don't get cocky. Soon enough, you'll be the one regretting this. After all, most of your former followers have already sided with me. With just a few of you, you're no match for us." Humph humph. The smile on Daisy Taylor's face grew wider. She turned to look at the 5 male students in uniforms behind her, shrugged, and then said to Charlie Ray, "Dealing with you alone is enough." Charlie Ray's face turned pale, thinking to himself that he was done for. This demon girl was serious. "Wait, Charlie Ray wants to challenge you." Charlie Ray quickly spoke up. Daisy Taylor raised an eyebrow, looking at Charlie Ray's frightened expression. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, resting one hand on her chin, pretending to think. "Big sis, stop wasting time with him and deal with him already." Cole reminded her, "This guy has no good intentions." Charlie Ray glared at Cole. "Who asked him to meddle?" Filled with resentment, he clenched his teeth. The current situation offered him no advantage, making a direct confrontation with Daisy Taylor unfavorable. "Daisy Taylor, are you scared?" "Provoking me won't work," Daisy Taylor said disdainfully, rolling her eyes. She signaled to her group before speaking, "All right, I specialize in handling defiance. If you think a challenge will perfectly expose your inferiority, then I'll grant you that. I accept your challenge. If I recall correctly, the monthly exams are coming up. Whoever loses has to leave the school. How about it? Do you dare to bet?" Daisy Taylor taunted, setting a trap for Charlie Ray to fall into. What a demon girl, so ruthless. If he lost, he would have no place to stand. Looking up, he saw Daisy Taylor's smug expression. Gritting his teeth, he responded, "Fine. Good. I'll let you off for today. Let's go." Daisy Taylor clapped her hands and turned to leave. Suddenly, she remembered something, turned back, and looked at Charlie Ray, who was glaring at her. She kindly reminded him, "Oh, almost forgot to tell you. Before confronting you, I called the teacher and reported their recent behavior. They're probably drinking tea in the office now. Why don't you go check?" "Daisy Taylor, you." Charlie Ray trembled with anger, his whole body shaking. Pointing at Daisy Taylor, he said, "Fine, I'll admit you're good." Chapter 24, Confession Without Fighting, Just Normal Stuff. Daisy Taylor chuckled and led her group of underlings swaggering away. "Where's Charles?" Daisy Taylor suddenly turned her head to ask Cole beside her. She had returned with such commotion, there's no way Charles wouldn't know. So why hadn't he shown up yet? "Seems like he's in the academic building," Cole replied uncertainly. "All right, let's go find him there first." "I want to invite him to lunch," Daisy Taylor said cheerfully. It had been a while since she last saw Charles. She wondered how he was doing now. She really missed him. With an air of determination, Daisy Taylor led her group, brimming with energy, to the academic building. She skillfully found Charles's classroom and barged in without hesitation. The moment she stepped inside, she saw Charles slumped over his desk, fiddling with his phone. Bang! A sudden slap landed on the desk in front of Charles, producing a sharp, startling noise. Charles, who had been daydreaming, jolted in surprise and looked up, her small hand clutching her chest. Her confused, delicate face turned toward the commotion, only to see a group of people standing before her. Instantly, her soul seemed to leave her body, her small face turning pale as a sheet. Gulp. Gulp. Charles swallowed hard, staring at Daisy Taylor, who was now dangerously close, as if she had just seen a ghost. Little Daisy. She wasn't imagining this, was she? No way. Standing right in front of her was Daisy Taylor. Was she here to settle some score? No matter the reason, she needed to get out of here quickly, or she might lose her life. Daisy Taylor, as usual, casually draped an arm over Charles's shoulder, pulling her head into her embrace with force. Charles, I miss you so much, I just remembered I have something to do. I'll be leaving now, goodbye. Charles blurted out, her small hands pushing Daisy Taylor away. Without sparing another moment, she slipped out of the classroom and bolted as if her life depended on it. No one's chasing her, so why is she running? Daisy Taylor muttered to herself. Hey, stop running. I'm inviting you to lunch. Daisy Taylor strode forward, and within 3 minutes, she caught up with Charles, who was fleeing. Breathing a sigh of relief, Daisy glared at her. Why are you running? Is my lunch invitation that terrifying? Lunch? Could it really be that simple? Charles's mind raced with thoughts. She glanced at Daisy Taylor before quickly lowering her gaze and stammering, I really have something to do. Stop making excuses. I know you too well. Every time you talk, you stammer, Daisy said as she let go of Charles's arm. Narrowing her eyes slightly, she coldly demanded, spill it. What's going on? Caught under Daisy Taylor's piercing gaze, Charles stiffened, lifting her chin in weak defiance. But under Daisy's sharp stare, she quickly surrendered, sniffled, and cautiously asked, Can I not say? What do you think? Daisy Taylor's curiosity deepened. What on earth was this girl hiding from her? It didn't seem simple. Putting on a stern face, she threatened seriously, I already know everything. Now, I'm giving you a chance to confess honestly. Huh? Charles's face immediately fell. She muttered softly, I shouldn't have told Ethan Leo about you being at the bar. I'm sorry. Daisy Taylor's mind went blank, and she stared at Charles in shock, her beautiful face clouding with anger. Are you saying that you were the one who told him I was at the bar? Yes. Chloe nodded obediently. A sudden realization struck her, and she gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. You didn't know. But it was already too late. So that's how she got found out. It wasn't about fearing a strong opponent, it was about fearing a foolish teammate. Oh, she wanted to scream. Standing next to Daisy Taylor, Chloe could clearly feel the menacing aura emanating from her. She quickly shuffled her feet, looking for an opportunity to slip away. But Daisy Taylor was quick to grab Chloe before she could escape and furiously scolded, I thought you were my last true friend. I've treated you so well, even planning to take you out for food after school. And yet, you stabbed me in the back like this. Daisy, I didn't mean to. I have my own reasons, Chloe cried, wishing she could find a hole to crawl into. She couldn't believe she had foolishly confessed when Daisy hadn't known anything. Humph! Daisy Taylor turned away in a huff, ignoring Chloe. Seeing Daisy Taylor upset, Chloe quickly grabbed her hand and explained, I'm really sorry. If Julian Leo hadn't forced me, I would never have betrayed you. I promise it won't happen again. Can you forgive me, Daisy? She pouted and tugged at Daisy's arm, pleading with an adorable look. The damage was done, and scolding Chloe wouldn't change anything. Daisy Taylor glanced at Chloe, then cleared her throat. Ahem, I'm hungry. Chloe's eyes lit up. I'll treat you to a meal. What do you want to eat? So easy to negotiate? Daisy Taylor raised an eyebrow slightly, secretly calculating in her mind, but her expression remained calm. I don't eat ordinary food. Then, where do you want to eat? Chloe asked. At this point, she only hoped Daisy wouldn't stay mad. Even if Daisy wanted a whole roasted lamb, Chloe would agree without hesitation. Daisy Taylor rolled her eyes, turned to look at Chloe's adorable face, stared at her for a moment, and then said, I've always wanted to go to the Golden Jade Hotel. What do you think? Golden Jade Hotel. Chloe nearly bit her tongue. Daisy Taylor was certainly bold to suggest that. The Golden Jade Hotel was the most expensive hotel around. Even a glass of water there cost hundreds. It was a rare and exclusive place. If you find it too hard or can't afford it, I'll just go by myself, Daisy Taylor said, her fox-like eyes slyly glancing at Chloe as she pretended to leave. Internally, she began counting, 1, 2. Fine. Golden Jade Hotel it is. Chloe gritted her teeth and chased after Daisy, agreeing to her demand. Mission accomplished, oh yeah. Daisy Taylor flashed a victorious V sign behind Chloe's back where she couldn't see. Alright, since you're so sincere, I'll go with you, Daisy replied reluctantly, though inwardly she was ecstatic. Today, she was going to eat to her heart's content. After all, Chloe had dared to betray her, leading to her being dragged back by Ethan Leo and tormented by that old hag. Okay. Chloe nodded repeatedly, silently shedding tears in her heart. Judging by the situation, her entire month's allowance was about to be devoured. Chapter 25, Skipping school with excuses. The two took a cab to the Golden Jade Hotel. Daisy Taylor looked up, admiring the luxurious golden exterior design, and exclaimed, as expected of the most expensive hotel, it exudes class just by looking at it. Let's go, we should head in quickly. Chloe smiled wryly, letting Daisy Taylor pull her inside while silently hoping that Daisy would eat a little more modestly. As soon as they stepped in, a uniformed waiter approached them. The tall, handsome man, standing over 6 feet, respectfully asked, What would you two ladies like to have? A private room, please, Daisy Taylor replied. Apologies, but our private rooms require prior reservations. Would you like to dine in the main hall instead? Alright, lead us there, Daisy Taylor nodded with a hint of disappointment, surprised by such a rule. They were guided to a table by the window. Daisy Taylor picked up the menu, her eyes scanning the diverse options as she pointed, this dish, this one, and that one too. Daisy, that dish is way too expensive. Let's choose something else, Charles said nervously, glancing at the prices on the menu, his heart pounding. 30,000. 30,000. For just a plate of plain boiled chicken, this is daylight robbery. Daisy Taylor slowly looked up at Charles and retorted, Didn't you say you'd treat me to a meal and that I could order anything I wanted? The waiter's gaze flickered back and forth between the two of them. Charles felt his scalp tingle under the scrutiny, unsure of what to do when suddenly. Charles. Julian Leo had just finished meeting a guest. Stepping out from his private room, he immediately spotted 2 familiar petite figures. At first glance, he thought he was seeing things, but upon approaching, it turned out to be Daisy Taylor and Charles. Hearing the familiar voice, Daisy Taylor and Charles exchanged glances before simultaneously turning their eyes toward the speaker. Julian Leo, tall and lean, was dressed in a classic black suit handcrafted in Italy. His neatly combed black hair and cold gaze, combined with the stern expression on his handsome face, exuded an air of authority without feeling out of place. Charles, noticing the stern look on Julian Leo's striking face, felt as if struck by lightning on a clear day. Sitting uneasily, he looked visibly shaken. Brother Julian, why are you here? Daisy Taylor asked curiously, her tone laced with disbelief. Was this sheer luck or something else? Julian Leo raised his hand, his cold eyes glancing at the Patek Philippe watch on his wrist. His thin lips parted slightly as he said, "It's still school hours. Why are the two of you here? And furthermore..." His voice trailed off as his long arm reached out, grabbing Charles by the wrist and pulling her up from her seat into his embrace. His gaze then shifted to Daisy Taylor, sternly questioning, "Did Ethan Leo not say you were causing a fuss about wanting to go to school? I think you owe him an explanation as to why you're here at the Golden Jade Hotel." I have the day off today," Daisy Taylor stammered, attempting to justify herself, though the excuse was weak. Julian Leo ignored her, lowering his eyes to look at Charles in his arms. He asked, "What's going on here?" From afar, I could see the two of you arguing. Well. Charles mumbled, keeping her head down and staring intently at her toes. She replied softly, "Daisy found out that I revealed her whereabouts, so she made me treat her to a meal." Her voice grew quieter with each word. "So that's why you're at the Golden Jade Hotel?" Julian Leo asked in a deep voice. Hearing Charles's explanation, he had already pieced together the situation. How foolish, only Charles would let herself be intimidated by Daisy Taylor. "Charles, you betrayed me again!" Daisy Taylor exclaimed angrily, springing up from her seat and storming toward Charles with fury in her eyes. Julian Leo's speed was clearly much faster than Daisy Taylor's. He quickly shielded Charles behind him, his slender fingers retrieving a phone from the pocket of his black suit jacket. Skillfully, he dialed a number, "Get to Golden Jade Hotel quickly." Before he could finish speaking, Daisy Taylor lunged forward, attempting to snatch the phone from Julian Leo's hand. Julian Leo swiftly sidestepped, and without having time to hang up, he tucked the phone back into his pocket. "Who are you calling?" Daisy Taylor narrowed her eyes, questioning him suspiciously. "I have no obligation to tell you," Julian Leo sternly replied. Daisy Taylor, skipping school and still being so defiant. "If I recall correctly, you were the one insisting on going to school. Now you're ditching. You might as well just stay home." Daisy Taylor felt a pang of hurt from Julian Leo's sharp words. She hadn't expected her usually reserved brother Tian-jun to reprimand her so harshly. A slight discomfort stirred in her heart. He's probably only saying so much because of Chloe, she thought. Sniffling, Daisy Taylor blinked rapidly, trying to conceal her stinging eyes. Resolutely, she turned and started walking away. If she couldn't win this argument, at least she could leave. "You're not going anywhere." Julian Leo's cold eyes flickered briefly as he saw Daisy Taylor about to leave. Letting go of Chloe's wrist, he quickly stepped forward, raising his arm to block Daisy Taylor's path. A sudden arm barring her way made Daisy Taylor frown in annoyance. Stubbornly, she looked him straight in the eye. "Brother Tian-jun, move aside." "You're not going anywhere," Julian Leo reiterated firmly. He needed to get Chloe out of here, but he also couldn't leave Daisy Taylor alone. With her temper, who knew what kind of trouble she might cause? Daisy Taylor was about to say something when a sudden thought flashed through her mind. This isn't good, he deliberately kept me here, that call just now must have been to Ethan Leo. She needed to leave quickly, otherwise, she would definitely be caught by Ethan Leo. Directly confronting Julian Leo was clearly not the best option. After careful consideration, Daisy Taylor decided not to face him for now. Pouting slightly, she casually said, "Fine, I won't leave anymore, okay?" Then she turned around and walked to a chair, sitting down. Julian Leo stared at Daisy Taylor for a long moment, ensuring she wouldn't run off before approaching Chloe. He glared at her warningly and said coldly, "Fool. I'm not a fool. I just didn't expect Daisy to suddenly show up at school," Chloe pouted in grievance. "A perfect opportunity." Daisy Taylor seized the moment, suddenly leaping up from the chair and sprinting out like the wind, only to crash headfirst into a solid chest. Ow, that hurt. Who dares block my way? Daisy Taylor snapped without even looking at the person in front of her. She grumbled while steadying herself. Chapter 26, The Old Ox Eats Young Grass. Ethan Leo's face darkened as he lowered his head to look at the petite girl in his arms, his hoarse voice saying, "It's me." The familiar voice, the familiar scent. Who else could it be but Ethan Leo? Oh dear. Daisy Taylor frowned, stiffly raising her head to meet the all-too-familiar face. She extended her hand awkwardly, forcing a smile as she greeted, "Ethan Leo, why are you here?" Seeing Daisy Taylor's characteristic actions and smile, a sly grin appeared on Ethan Leo's lips. His left hand lazily slid into his pocket and his eyes, equally languid, stayed fixed on Daisy Taylor. "Can you not look at me like that? It's making me nervous," Daisy Taylor stammered, her gaze flitting around as she secretly searched for the best escape route. If she fell into his hands today, she was doomed. "No," Ethan Leo rejected outright, his strong steps closing the distance between them. "Didn't you say you were going to school?" How naive of him to believe she'd obediently go to class. He had just finished wrapping up work at the school when he got a call from his older brother. Without hesitation, he rushed over. I can't eat a meal," Daisy Taylor retorted, her guilty eyes darting away from Ethan Leo's handsome face and scanning her surroundings. Inwardly, she cursed Tian Tuan countless times. Ethan Leo was nearly choked by Daisy Taylor's words, his beautiful lips pressed tightly together, and his expression grew a few shades colder. "Does eating require going to such an expensive place?" She forced Chloe to treat her, Julian Leo said as he approached with Chloe in tow, casually throwing shade while simultaneously shooting Chloe a warning glance. Chloe quickly lowered her head, instinctively hiding behind Julian Leo. She glanced at Daisy Taylor nervously, silently praying, "Daisy, you're on your own now. I can't even protect myself, so don't blame me." Daisy Taylor suddenly raised her head, angrily glaring at Julian Leo. "I didn't threaten her," she volunteered. "Who told her to betray me?" Julian Leo coldly glanced at Daisy Taylor's small face and said to Ethan Leo, "I have work to do. You handle your own matters properly and don't let her cause trouble outside." "What? Cause trouble? Brother Julian, when did I ever cause trouble? Explain yourself clearly," Daisy Taylor said, ready to confront Julian Leo. Ethan Leo quickly extended his long arm to grab the restless Daisy Taylor, sternly saying, "Daisy Taylor, stop making a fuss. Aren't you embarrassed enough already?" "Embarrassed where?" Daisy Taylor protested indignantly. "I was just here eating. If it weren't for you two meddling, would this even happen?" Daisy Taylor's rosy lips parted, revealing her neat white teeth as she struggled to break free from Ethan Leo's grip. In the end, her small fists and feet directly attacked. Without saying a word, Ethan Leo looked at Daisy Taylor, extended his hand, and hoisted her over his shoulder, striding out. "Ah! Put me down." Suddenly being carried, Daisy Taylor's head spun, her face flushed red. "Ethan Leo, you jerk. Put me down, or I won't forgive you." "Quiet." Ethan Leo's expression darkened as he barked, quickening his pace. Seeing the growing number of onlookers, his face turned even grimmer. "Ethan Leo, put me down. Put me down." Daisy Taylor used all her strength, thrashing around on Ethan Leo's broad shoulder. How hateful. To carry her out in front of so many people, this was undoubtedly the most humiliating moment of Daisy Taylor's life. Boo-hoo, how could he bully her like this? No, she couldn't just let this happen. Otherwise, wouldn't she end up like Chloe? Daisy Taylor shook her small head, sniffled, and her senses were immediately overwhelmed by Ethan Leo's scent. She shouted loudly, "Ethan Leo, put me down. Don't make me truly lose my temper." "Not happening," Ethan Leo replied with unwavering determination, completely ignoring her threats. His steps were swift as he exited the hotel and headed straight for the car parked by the roadside. Help! Assault! An old bull eating young grass. Daisy Taylor screamed at the top of her lungs. Ethan Leo's handsome, well-defined face turned as dark as ink, clearly feeling the surrounding gazes fixated on him, his temples twitching twice. Help! Daisy Taylor had no intention of stopping her shouting, her clear voice echoing throughout the square. Ethan Leo, with one arm holding the struggling Daisy Taylor, used his other hand to pull the car key from his pocket, pressing it to unlock the car door. He swung it open forcefully and tossed Daisy Taylor inside. Huh? Why is she still on my shoulder? Ethan Leo turned his head in doubt, only to see Daisy Taylor gripping the car door tightly with both hands, refusing to let go. Humph. Ethan Leo let out a cold chuckle unconsciously and used his ultimate move, lightly tickling her underarm. This little rascal had been mischievous since childhood and was extremely ticklish. Huh, let go. Daisy Taylor couldn't withstand Ethan Leo's torture, and had to release her grip, hitting him while trying to escape his grasp. Seeing Daisy Taylor's hands leave the car door, Ethan Leo's eyes sparkled. He swiftly threw her into the passenger seat to prevent her from escaping, then quickly got in himself and shut the door. Thrown into the car, Daisy Taylor almost ended up lying flat. Determined, she quickly sat up, grabbed the door handle, and tugged at it a few times, but it wouldn't open. Fuming, Daisy Taylor turned to glare at Ethan Leo, the culprit behind it all, and clawed at him. Let me out, let me out. I haven't even eaten yet. Ethan Leo's eyebrow twitched ever so slightly, his icy gaze landing on Daisy Taylor. At a time like this, she was still thinking about food. In the 0.5 seconds that Ethan Leo let his guard down, Daisy Taylor's claws landed on his face. Ugh! Ethan Leo groaned in pain, letting out a low growl as he quickly grabbed Daisy Taylor's slender wrist, squinting his eyes and taking a deep breath. If he didn't teach her a lesson today, she'd cause even more trouble. Daisy Taylor felt her scalp tingle under Ethan Leo's piercing gaze, her face scrunching up. Ethan Leo, you. The rest of her words got stuck in her throat. Ethan Leo reached out, pulling her into his lap. Daisy Taylor ended up face down, sprawled across his legs. With one hand holding her flailing arms, Ethan Leo raised his other hand and brought it down on Daisy Taylor's petite backside. If she kept causing a scene, his lungs were going to explode. Ouch, that hurts. Daisy Taylor cried out, opening her mouth to bite Ethan Leo's leg. Chapter 27, He Wants to Kidnap Me. Ethan Leo's pupils suddenly widened, his gaze fixated on Daisy Taylor's nape, his expression dark as his hand continued to strike. Daisy Taylor, if you have the guts, don't let go. Smack, you insisted on going to school, and on your first day, you skipped class. Quite bold of you, Ethan Leo said, landing 2 more slaps on Daisy Taylor's small bottom. The sharp sound of the strikes echoed relentlessly inside the car. Daisy Taylor's eyes turned red, her small nose sniffling as she let out a wail. The pain forced her to cry out, tears streaming down as she cursed, "You old man. Hoo, how dare you hit me? Just wait till you're old, I'll see how I deal with you then. Hoo. She was already 18, yet she was being spanked like a child. If her peers found out, wouldn't they laugh their heads off? Ethan Leo's mouth twitched slightly, his hand not slowing down. Swallowing hard, he said in a deep voice, "Don't worry. Even if I grow old, you still won't be a match for me." Feeling wronged, Daisy Taylor shut her mouth, letting out muffled sobs. She vowed to take revenge. Ethan Leo, just you wait. Tell me, will you dare skip school again? Ethan Leo asked coldly. Humph. Daisy Taylor stubbornly let out a defiant grunt, turning her small head away, refusing to answer Ethan Leo's question. Smack, did you hear what I just said? Ethan Leo asked again, his tone commanding and leaving no room for defiance. No, Daisy Taylor puffed her cheeks and answered firmly. She was a child with pride and determination, standing firm in her beliefs. Such unyielding spirit. Ethan Leo, where Daisy Taylor couldn't see, curved his lips into a sly smile. Raising his hand, he struck her bottom again, his voice calm and deliberate. "All right then, today I'll keep going until you listen." Smack smack smack, ah. Daisy Taylor finally couldn't take it anymore and burst into loud cries, tears falling like rain. "Ethan Leo, you're bullying someone younger than you. What kind of skill is that?" "Hoo hoo hoo." Ethan Leo frowned, his handsome face clearly showing his displeasure. Still not obedient enough. Seeing Ethan Leo's hand raised again, Daisy Taylor quickly shouted, "Don't hit me anymore. I heard you, okay? Using violence to solve problems, what kind of adult does that make?" Looking into Daisy Taylor's clear, sincere, tear-filled eyes, Ethan Leo let out a silent sigh. Staring at his raised hand, he hesitated. This little girl definitely knew he couldn't bring himself to truly hurt her, didn't she? "Will you skip school again in the future?" Ethan Leo asked coldly, his eyes slightly lowered. A sharp glint from his narrow eyes pierced Daisy Taylor's small face, carrying a threatening warning. Daisy Taylor felt guilty under Ethan Leo's gaze, shrinking her neck timidly. She nodded obediently, her voice trembling, "I won't dare anymore." Only then did Ethan Leo lower his hand. "All right, I'll let you off this time. But if you do it again, I will." He trailed off, his threatening eyes darting to Daisy Taylor's small backside. Noticing Ethan Leo's gaze, Daisy Taylor's face turned red. She quickly scrambled off Ethan Leo's lap and ran far away, nodding repeatedly in submission. The corner of Ethan Leo's mouth twitched slightly with a hint of amusement as he finally started driving home. Damn it, she was already grown up, yet she still got spanked. How humiliating. Daisy Taylor's eyes darted around, sneaking glances at Ethan Leo's annoyingly handsome face over and over again. She sized up her petite frame, realizing she didn't stand a chance in a fight against him, she wouldn't even be able to leave a scratch. Just as Daisy Taylor was at a loss for what to do, the traffic light ahead turned red. Ethan Leo stopped the car. Daisy Taylor, quick-eyed, looked out the window, and suddenly her eyes lit up. This was the perfect opportunity. Without hesitation, Daisy Taylor rolled down the car window, stuck her head out, and shouted toward a nearby patrolling police officer, "Help! Someone is trying to kidnap me." Caught off guard, Ethan Leo hadn't expected Daisy Taylor to cause such a commotion. He furrowed his brows, tightened his lips, and reached out to grab the back of Daisy Taylor's shirt, pulling her back forcefully. "Daisy Taylor, don't push me." "Ah!" Daisy Taylor wailed dramatically, sticking her head out of the window again and screaming, "Help! Daisy Taylor, stop causing trouble, do you hear me?" Ethan Leo shouted helplessly. His pale, well-defined hand left the steering wheel, stretched out, and wrapped around Daisy Taylor's slim waist, pulling her firmly into his arms. His expression darkened as he warned sternly, "If you keep this up, I'll kill you." The police officer, captivated by Daisy Taylor, bent down and gently knocked on the car window. "Excuse me, is there something wrong here?" Daisy Taylor's eyes sparkled as she struggled toward the car door. "Officer, this bad man is trying to kidnap me. You have to help," sob. Sensing trouble, Ethan Leo quickly covered Daisy Taylor's mouth, who was rambling incessantly, and apologetically addressed the officer outside the window. "Please don't listen to her nonsense. There's nothing going on here. If people misunderstood the situation, it would be humiliating for someone his age. How on earth did he end up entangled with this little demon, Daisy Taylor?" Hoo. Seeing the officer about to leave, Daisy Taylor panicked. Her tiny hands tried desperately to pry away Ethan Leo's hand covering her mouth, while her small legs kicked furiously. "Sir, please remove your hand and let the child explain what's happening," the officer said, noticing Daisy Taylor's unusual reaction. His gaze turned wary as he looked at Ethan Leo. Ethan Leo frowned almost imperceptibly but reluctantly released his hand under the officer's watchful eyes, shooting Daisy Taylor a warning glance. Once free, Daisy Taylor bolted like a wild horse, or rather, like a rabbit escaping a trap. She quickly leaned toward the car door, flinging it open in an instant. Her small hands clutched tightly onto the officer's arm as she pretended to cower in fear behind him. Peeking out, she pointed at Ethan Leo, who was sitting in the driver's seat. "He's the one trying to kidnap me. Daisy Taylor." Ethan Leo's face turned pale with anger as he glared at the shameless Daisy Taylor hiding behind the officer. His entire demeanor exuded an intimidating aura. "Ah! He's so scary. Sob sob, I just want to go home." Daisy Taylor ignored everything, wailing loudly. Her voice echoed, immediately drawing the attention of passers-by. As more and more people gathered around, the officer's expression grew serious. "Step out of the car and explain to me what's going on." Daisy Taylor squinted mischievously, like a cunning little fox, and continued to exaggerate. "He's trying to kidnap me. He's a bad man." Chapter 28, Escaping. For now the veins on the back of Ethan Leo's hand bulged, his temples throbbed, and he suddenly stepped out of the car, slamming the door shut. Striding towards Daisy Taylor, he reached out, intending to grab her arm and teach her a lesson. "Stop!" Seeing this, the policeman quickly shielded Daisy Taylor behind him, looking at Ethan Leo warily. "Don't act rashly. Honestly explain your relationship with this young girl." Ethan Leo suppressed his anger, trying to stay calm. "I am her guardian. Her name is Daisy Taylor, she's 18 this year, and she's currently—" "Officer, he's lying." Daisy Taylor interrupted Ethan Leo hurriedly, clutching the policeman's arm. She spoke with a serious expression, "My name isn't Daisy Taylor, it's Chloe, and I'm only 16. As she spoke, her big, sparkling eyes blinked innocently, her face full of earnestness. 16. Ethan Leo sneered, his sharp gaze fixed on Daisy Taylor. 16. What nonsense. The policeman looked Daisy Taylor up and down. No matter how he saw it, she appeared young, and besides, how could such an adorable girl be a liar? Comforting her, he said, "Little girl, don't worry. If he's truly a bad guy, I'll make sure you get justice." "Thank you, officer. You're such a good person," Daisy Taylor said gratefully, her eyes darting towards Ethan Leo. She deliberately shrank back, putting on an expression of fear. Ethan Leo glared at Daisy Taylor with eyes as sharp as knives, a cold smile forming in his heart. "Daisy Taylor, just wait and see how I deal with you later." Retracting his warning gaze, Ethan Leo reached into his pocket, pulled out his wallet, and handed over his identification to the policeman. "Here is my ID." The policeman took the ID from Ethan Leo and looked at it. "You. Major General." Still in shock, the policeman barely had time to react when Daisy Taylor snatched the ID. Her eyes scanned it quickly before she declared righteously, "Don't believe this villain. That ID belongs to a mustached man on the street who handed it to him. I saw with my own eyes that he bribed the man with $200 to keep quiet. Daisy Taylor, do you want a beating?" Ethan Leo exploded with rage, raising his hand as if to strike Daisy Taylor. "Ah! Help, officer. I'm sorry, I won't reveal your secrets anymore. Please don't hit me. I'm just a student, spare me. I don't want to be a child bride." Daisy Taylor cried out dramatically, her clear voice echoing loudly. Within 5 minutes, a curious crowd had gathered, forming layers upon layers around them, creating a lively scene. Immediately, the people around began pointing fingers at Ethan Leo. "Looks decent, but who would have thought he's involved in child trafficking? Truly immoral." "Exactly, nowadays anything can happen. Look at that little girl, so adorable, and that man, just one glance and you can tell." Already infuriated by Daisy Taylor, Ethan Leo was in a foul mood. Now, hearing the whispers around him, the anger inside him flared up. He shouted, "Daisy Taylor, if you keep spouting nonsense, just wait until we get home and see how I deal with you." Daisy Taylor froze, staring blankly at Ethan Leo. She believed he was serious, but at this point, it seemed regret was too late. Daisy Taylor stammered, feigning extreme fear of Ethan Leo. You're a bad person, boo-hoo. Daisy Taylor knew she was in a tough spot now. The police officer was brought into this mess because of her, and Ethan Leo's fury was something she clearly couldn't provoke. After all, survival was the priority. She decided to stall for as long as she could. Thus, Daisy Taylor put on a vivid performance, portraying the image of a victim, crying her heart out. Crystal clear tears immediately streamed down her face. "Officer, I. Her terrified sobs made it seem impossible for her to complete a sentence. "Don't cry, little girl," said the officer, who by now had almost entirely sided with Daisy Taylor. "Daisy Taylor, that's enough." Ethan Leo was utterly furious. "Do you believe I won't hit you?" Ethan Leo glared at Daisy Taylor, his eyes practically blazing with fury. "Wah!" Daisy Taylor cried even louder. "Officer, did you see that? Even in front of you, he wants to hurt me. If he really were a major general, really a good person, would he treat me so coldly and heartlessly? Officer, please save me." While speaking, Daisy Taylor reached out to grab the young police officer's arm, acting as if he was her lifeline at that moment. She gently shook it, her demeanor full of coquettishness. At this moment, the fury within Ethan Leo completely erupted. "Daisy Taylor, what are you holding on to? Your husband isn't dead yet." Ethan Leo's eyes turned bloodshot, his voice thunderous. Daisy Taylor was his wife, his woman, yet here she was flirting with another man right in front of him. It infuriated him to no end. With his eyes blazing, Ethan Leo stepped forward, intending to pull Daisy Taylor into his arms to stop her from interacting with the young officer. But seeing Ethan Leo's rage, as if he was about to devour her, Daisy Taylor panicked and screamed. "Ah! Don't come near me!" Daisy Taylor cried out, flailing her arms and legs. In the midst of their struggle, the young police officer caught in the middle ended up suffering the consequences. "Stop causing trouble. This is a public place, if there's an issue, take it to the station, ouch." Suddenly, the young officer's words of advice were cut short. His body stiffened before curling up, his face contorted in pain from the unexpected blow. The culprit, Daisy Taylor, stood frozen in place. "Officer, are you okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to kick you there. How about I blow on it for you?" Daisy Taylor swore to the heavens that her apology was sincere. She truly wanted to express her remorse to the young officer. She just didn't expect her flustered words to provoke Ethan Leo even further. "Daisy Taylor, stop messing around." Ethan Leo gritted his teeth, gripping Daisy Taylor's wrist tightly as if he wanted to crush her bones. Terrifying. Daisy Taylor swallowed hard. She suddenly realized that this time, she had truly caused trouble. Initially, she thought she could rely on the officer, but instead, she ended up kicking him in that spot. "Oh, Daisy Taylor, what were you thinking? Why didn't you check the auspicious date before leaving the house this morning?" Chapter 29, The Mischievous Queen Causes Chaos. INU. Daisy Taylor stammered, contemplating whether she should take advantage of the moment while her life was still intact to soften her stance with comrade Ethan Leo. However, before Daisy Taylor could make up her mind, the young police officer had already regained some strength, completely driven mad by this couple. "Both of you, come back to the police station with me for an investigation." And so, the young and imposing Major General Ethan Leo, exuding an air of dominance, set foot in a police station for the first time in his life, all because of the little troublemaker Daisy Taylor. Even now, just sitting next to Ethan Leo, Daisy Taylor could feel the raging fury radiating from him, as if he was ready to burn everything to ashes. She had truly angered that jerk Ethan Leo this time. What should she do now? Once again, Daisy Taylor twisted her fingers, pouted, and furrowed her brows, sinking into deep thought. To be fair, this whole commotion wasn't entirely her fault. If Ethan Leo hadn't been so overbearing and controlling, restricting her from this and forbidding her from that, how could someone as sensible as Daisy Taylor have caused such a scene with him? So, even though she was at fault, she decided she would only take half the blame. Having made up her mind, Daisy Taylor extended her delicate, fair hand toward Ethan Leo. "Honey, I admit it, I take half the responsibility for this mess. Now, you can hit me," Daisy Taylor said, puffing out her chest and putting on an expression of resignation as she spoke to Ethan Leo. But the moment Ethan Leo heard Daisy Taylor call him "honey," all his towering rage dissipated. In fact, an indescribable flutter stirred in his chest. Of course, outwardly, Ethan Leo's expression remained unchanged, his handsome face still cold and unyielding. "Hey!" This time, Daisy Taylor was not happy and angrily shouted at Ethan Leo, "I've already taken the initiative to extend the olive branch, shouldn't you show some response? You bear half the responsibility for this too." Ethan Leo glanced sideways at Daisy Taylor. "Shut up. You. Major General." Just as Daisy Taylor was about to retract her words, summoning the iron will of her ancestors who resisted for 8 years, ready to go head-to-head with this old man Ethan Leo, a police department official approached Ethan Leo with an exceedingly friendly and affable smile. "Look at how chaotic things have gotten today. That young officer is new, inexperienced in handling matters, and hasn't thought things through. Major General, please don't get upset or take this to heart," the official said nervously. Ethan Leo's reputation in this city was formidable, even a mere stomp from him could make the ground tremble. If he were offended, the official's career might very well come to an end. "He was just doing his job according to the law," Ethan Leo replied. He was a man who distinguished between public and private matters, and the young officer's sense of justice even earned him some admiration. "May I and this little girl leave now?" Ethan Leo asked, holding Daisy Taylor like a kitten and presenting her in front of the official. Of course," the official quickly replied. "I'll arrange for someone to escort. I think taxpayers' money shouldn't be wasted on such things," Ethan Leo bluntly declined. Yes, the official stammered, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. Although Ethan Leo was only 29 years old, the imposing aura he exuded was something ordinary people could not withstand. No wonder he had achieved the rank of Major General at such a young age. As night fell and the city lights came alive, the entire metropolis seemed to indulge in romantic displays under the multicolored glow. But for Comrade Daisy Taylor, this marked the beginning of her punishment journey. In the car, Ethan Leo's face was as cold as ice, his eyes sharp as blades. The chilling aura filling the car made Daisy Taylor feel that even with just a strand of hair, she could vividly imagine how Ethan Leo would torment her to death once they got home. No way. Her little life was more important. Ahem. Daisy Taylor coughed lightly a few times, trying to break the strange silence, then said, "Are you, hungry? Do you want to eat something? When we get home, I can cook for you. They say kindness begets kindness." If she could fill Ethan Leo's stomach with delicious food, surely he wouldn't stay mad at her. Who would have guessed? As soon as Daisy Taylor finished speaking, Ethan Leo immediately glanced at her and coldly remarked, "What are you plotting this time?" "What do you mean?" Daisy Taylor felt hurt. "I'm being serious." "Even if you're serious, can anything you cook actually be edible?" Ethan Leo continued coldly. "Daisy Taylor, you're a master at causing chaos, reigning as the queen of mischief, but cooking or reading to become a proper lady? That's definitely not your forte." Hearing Ethan Leo's assessment, Daisy Taylor laughed. Honey, I didn't expect you to understand me so well. Daisy Taylor clasped her hands into fists, placed them under her chin, and blinked her sparkling eyes at Ethan Leo. So you're not mad anymore, right? After all, this personality of mine is innate, not something I intentionally use to annoy you. With her words, Daisy Taylor subtly shifted 50% of the blame onto her natural personality. What do you think? But Ethan Leo wasn't someone easily fooled. He saw through all the little tricks Daisy Taylor had up her sleeve. And precisely because he understood her so well. Today, Ethan Leo was determined to teach Daisy Taylor a lesson, one she'd remember for a long time, so she wouldn't keep trying to challenge him. If one day she truly provoked him, the one who'd suffer in the end would only be this little troublemaker herself. You're saying you're sure you're not mad and won't punish me, right? Daisy Taylor asked with great hope. Daydreaming. Ethan Leo scoffed coldly. Humph. Ethan Leo, you're such a jerk. All you ever do is bully me, this little beauty. Seeing that Ethan Leo had no intention of letting her off and was dead set on punishing her, Daisy Taylor decided to give up trying to appease him. Ethan Leo, let me tell you, if you insist on punishing me today, then don't even think about touching me from now on. You can live like a monk for the rest of your life.